Hello guys, this is Dark Fox Sage 2 and we are back with our new fanfic, which is what if Naruto has to choose among Sakura, Ino and Hinata part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfiction. She has to be here. It's the only place we haven't looked, said Naruto as he and Sai walked into the Konohagakure department store. Naruto looked to the left and Sai looked to the right in search of Sakura but still didn't see her. I guess Tenten was wrong, said Naruto as he rubbed the back of his head and briskly swiped his hair back and forth. Well, she did say that she was coming here to buy a present for the Valentine's Day festival. Maybe she is in a part that sells things that she likes to get for people, suggested Sai looking at Naruto. Naruto hummed and thought as he placed his right hand up to his chin and looked down thinking when he suddenly remembered something. The necklace, shouted Naruto as he slammed his fist down on his other palm, finally coming up with a good guess of where she might be. Necklace? Asked Sai. Yeah? I remember how Hinata said she loved it, maybe Sakura-chan is looking at it as well. Come on, Naruto answered then ran off with Sai in the direction of the jewelry department. There she is, shouted Naruto, pointing at Sakura who was holding a small jewelry box. Sakura-chan, he shouted out to her. Sakura turned her gaze, from the box she was holding, to Naruto and Sai who just stopped running and stood in front of her. Oh hey Naruto, Sai. What's wrong? She asked them. We've been looking for you, replied Sai. You have? Why? Asked Sakura. Well, Sakura-chan, we haven't seen you since the day before and when we asked people if they had seen you, they said no so we got kinda worried. That's all? Explained Naruto with a playful chuckle. Oh, I'm alright, Sakura said with a smile that seemed almost fake in a way. Just shopping. Shopping for the Valentine's Day festival tomorrow? Asked Naruto as he started to think about what this could mean. Why yeah, she replied with a sort of uncertain stammer in her voice. After her response, Naruto looked at her and wondered if this could mean that Sasuke would be there. He had a hunch deep in the pit of his stomach that she somehow ended up with him at the end of the tunnel of destiny and still believes it. Who are you going to the festival with? Asked Sai to Sakura. Sakura's eyes jolted fully open after hearing Sai's question, then she slowly turned her head to the side, avoiding eye contact with Naruto and Sai. Well, I was hoping that but before Sakura could finish her statement, she was interrupted with a sudden, hey, from Shikamaru and Temari as they walked up behind Naruto and Sai. Hey Shikamaru. Hey Temari, said Naruto. Sai gave a slight head bow to them as a hello and Sakura smiled big as she was hoping for an interruption before she could say what she was going to say. What are you guys doing? Asked Naruto to Shikamaru and Temari. Too troublesome to explain, said Shikamaru as he looked at Naruto. We are just shopping for Valentine's Day festival gifts together, replied Temari as she held Shikamaru's hand. Me too, said Sakura. I just bought. Sakura stopped herself from saying what she wanted to say. Everyone stayed silent from hearing Sakura suddenly become quiet. Well, we are going to the movies later on, said Shikamaru breaking the awkward silence. You guys can come. Naruto? How about it? Sakura. Sai, you guys are invited if you want to come? No thanks, respond Naruto. I'ma see if Hinata wants to do anything later, said Naruto looking at his watch. Sure I'll go, but before Sai could finish taking Shikamaru up on his offer with his usual smile, Sakura placed a hand over Sai's mouth and chuckled nervously. Silly Sai. Don't you remember that you have to help me and Naruto later with that thing? Said Sakura still with the nervous chuckle. Sai looked on at Sakura weirdly as he didn't know what she was talking about. What thing? Sai asked, but it was muffled by her hand being on his mouth. You know, the thing. Right, Naruto? Said Sakura to Naruto as she gave him a face that signaled for him to just agree with her. What thing? Said a dumbfounded Naruto. I don't remember a thing. Sakura chuckled and gave a playful punch to Naruto's head while still holding Sai's mouth. Yeah, we have that thing to do, but you two lovebirds go have fun, she said with a smile. Okay, we'll see you guys later then, said Shikamaru to then in his usual lazy manner. See ya, said Tamari in her usual way and left, but not before giving a hintful wink to Sakura. And with that, they left them. Sakura gave a sigh of relief and Naruto rose back to his feet in confusion. Now tell me. What thing do we have to do? Asked Naruto. Yeah, what is the thing? Asked Sai. I could tell that Tamari wanted to be with Shikamaru alone. She probably told him that it was considered a date, but seeing as Shikamaru is not too keen on girls, he probably didn't realize it. I don't think she would appreciate more people tagging along on her date, said Sakura. But why not? He offered, asked Sai, still confused. You don't want to be a third wheel, do you? That is what you would have felt if you went with them. It's best to respect the wishes of her wanting to be alone with her boyfriend and not interfere, said Sakura with a nod. What's a third wheel? Asked Sai, confused. Never mind, said Sakura as she shook her head. Then he should not have offered if we were unable to go, responded Sai with an over-analytical response. Boys don't understand anything, said a fed-up Sakura. Hey, I understood. Sorta. So, Sakura-chan, who is the present for? Asked Naruto walking alongside Sakura. Well, it's for, stammered Sakura as she didn't want to reveal that she got a present for Sasuke. Naruto looked at Sakura, then finally realized who she bought the present for. Secretly, Sai was beginning to figure out as well about Sakura's secret as well. This could be the perfect time for me to heal the bonds of friendship between Sasuke and Naruto, thought Sai. I have to go, Naruto, Sakura. See you tomorrow, Sai said with his famous smile, then walked off away from Naruto and Sakura. Okay. See ya, Sai, waved Naruto. Sakura remained silent for a while, then looked ahead to try and shield her secret from Naruto. Sakura-chan, is that present for? So Naruto, how is Hinata? Interrupted Sakura. Oh, she is great, but who is the present F? That's good. She's a good person, said Sakura, cutting off Naruto's question again. Naruto gave up on asking her if the present was for Sasuke and looked to the side. Just then he heard someone calling him. Naruto-kun, shouted Hinata, running up to the side of him. Hinata, hey, Naruto greeted her. Hey, I wanted to tell you that I've been signed on to AM mission and that I won't be able to go on our D-date tonight, said Hinata while looking downward. It's okay. We're going to make all the fun up when we go to the festival tomorrow, said Naruto, then noticed that Hinata was holding a red box in her hand. Hey, is that for me? Asked Naruto excitedly. Hinata blushed and quickly placed the gift behind her back. Why, yeah, replied Hinata. Well, I'll talk to YU tomorrow. I have to leave for the mission now with Kiba and Shino. Naruto gave a nod to the long-haired Hyuga heir and hugged her before she left. Hinata blushed as usual and smiled at Naruto, then walked out of the mall. Naruto continued to look on where Hinata was at, then remembered Sakura. Sakura-chan? Where did she go? He asked himself, then suddenly someone else walked up to Naruto. Hey Naruto, what are you doing here? Asked Iruka. Iruka-sensei. shouted Naruto as he gave Iruka a hug. It's been a while. A long while. I haven't seen you in forever, exclaimed Naruto. I was just talking with Sakura-chan, but I guess she already left. I see. So do you have the gift for Hinata yet? Yeah, I know, Iruka said with a chuckle. Kakashi told me everything. Well, I want to get her this necklace, but it is far too expensive and I can tell she really wants it, Naruto said looking at Iruka. Well, how about I help you out, Naruto? I'll loan you the money and you can pay me back when you get it. How's that sound? Naruto jumped up in joy of hearing Iruka's words. Thank you, Iruka-sensei, exclaimed Naruto as Iruka handed him some money. Now I can get her that gift, Naruto said as he ran off to buy the necklace for Hinata. Iruka chuckled happily seeing Naruto so happy and watched as Naruto bought the necklace. After buying it, he grinned and ran back out to Iruka. I got it, said Naruto holding the box up to Iruka in glory. Great. Now how about we go get some ramen? Huh? My treat, offered Iruka. Yeah. Ramen, shouted Naruto in joy, and with that, Iruka and Naruto walked off to the ramen shop. Later that night, Sakura waited in her room, sitting on her bed and holding the present behind her back. She checked her watch. It read 10:59 p.m. Unknowing to Sakura, Sai stood atop her house awaiting and hitting as well to see if his predictions were right. If they were, then this could be his chance to help Naruto in bringing back Sasuke. I'm here, Sakura, came a voice from Sakura's window pane. Sasuke-kun. I almost thought you wouldn't show up, said Sakura rushing up to give Sasuke a hug. I got you a present for you. I wanted to give it to you now. I don't suppose you would be coming to the Valentine's Day festival tomorrow, said Sakura as she showed Sasuke the present. Sakura, you know I can't go. I want to go with you but I can't, said Sasuke in his normal tone as she jumped down from the window pane and sat on her bed, then looked down as if he had some bad news. Sakura, sensing something was wrong, put down the present on her desk and looked at Sasuke. Sasuke-kun? Is something wrong? She asked him. Sakura, Orochimaru told me of some things. Some things I gotta do if I am to kill my brother. This latest scheme he's working on. The whole thing with the haunted house and the resurrection ritual. It's all have to do with the destruction of Konoha, and I know, with all the resources he has, this is going to work without flaw, said Sasuke still looking downward. What are you saying? Sasuke-kun, said a worried Sakura as she grabbed Sasuke's hand with both of hers and sat a little closer to him. Sasuke-kun. I'm saying that the plan to destroy Konoha is going to commence tomorrow officially. I have to go along with it if I am to kill him and restore my clan, said Sasuke clenching his other fist. Hearing this from Sasuke started to make Sakura's eyes tear up in sadness, but she nonetheless held on tight to his hand, not wanting to let go. But Sakura's eyes twitched hearing Sasuke continue. Ever since I have been coming to see you at this time most nights, I feel different. It's like I'm being torn in two pieces. One wanting to be here and the other wanting to do whatever it takes to kill my brother. Sasuke explained, then slowly glanced over at Sakura, who was looking back at him into his eyes. Sakura content to look into his eyes and blinked slowly. I know it's hard to understand the situation I'm in, but Sasuke said to Sakura in a low tone of inner sorrow when suddenly he sensed something. Sasuke quickly glanced down and saw a form of ink crawling toward his leg. Thinking quickly, Sasuke jumped to his feet and out of the window and onto the top of Sakura's house to confront Sai. So it's you again, Sasuke said back to looking his evil way. My replacement for Team 7 Inches. Sai looked on at Sasuke and began to think of what he was going to do next. His sneak attack with the ink jutsu didn't work, so now he had to improvise. Sasuke, I am going to rejuvenate the bonds between you and Naruto, Sai said as he began to do a jutsu which created 4 ink beast-like creatures appear from his drawing on Sakura's roof. Sasuke gave an evil snicker, then charged the ink beasts. Sakura quickly jumped to the roof from her window and saw Sai fighting with Sasuke. No, don't fight, she yelled out to them, but to no avail. Sasuke, moving swiftly, took out his kusanagi from its sheath and sliced through all the ink beasts, then charged for Sai. Thinking on his feet, Sai quickly ducked out of the way of the deadly sword, then rolled back on his feet. I have to stay some distance to fight him, thought Sai as he took out 2 kunai. HMPH. Your kunai won't beat my kusanagi blade, stated Sasuke. Sai stood ready nonetheless. Starting the fight back up, Sai threw his first kunai at Sasuke, in which Sasuke just caught it with his open hand. Next, Sai threw his last kunai, but this time making it stick to the ground, the roof's floor, in front of Sasuke. Sasuke looked on confused, but then Sai started to form hand seals again, suddenly causing the kunai in Sasuke's hand to turn into a ink-like substance, making Sasuke's hand stick and clenched in a fist. Sasuke looked at his hand as he couldn't open it into a palm. Next, Sai performed another set of hand seals, in which making the kunai on the ground turned to the same type of sticky ink and ran over Sasuke's feet, making him stuck to the ground of which he stood. Finally, Sai took out a kunai and prepared to attack Sasuke. Sasuke looked on at Sai but was unworried, as was Sai. Sai then suddenly dashed toward Sasuke and thrusted the kunai at him. Sasuke suddenly, before the kunai could reach him, broke out of the sticky ink and cut the kunai that Sai was about to stab him with. Sai, now surprised, was defenseless. Sasuke gave an evil smirk, not even bothering to activate Sharingan to beat Sai. Sasuke smirked on at Sai, then finally stabbed him with the kusanagi blade. Sakura watched on in horror as Sai was stabbed, but then suddenly, something strange happened. Sai began to turn into ink too after being stabbed. It was an ink clone made by Sai before Sasuke got on the roof. The ink that the clone made dripped from the kusanagi into the roof. Sasuke gasped lightly. An ink clone, he said to himself as he realized that he would have known that from the beginning that he was fighting a clone if he had the Sharingan activated. Suddenly, the real Sai jumped up onto the roof behind Sasuke and threw a kunai at Sasuke's back. Sasuke, sensing this, quickly turned the upper half of his body and caught it at the last minute. Sai landed on the roof, then formed one hand seal. Sasuke's eyes widened at what he was holding. A kunai, with an explosive tags wrapped around it. It was checkmate. Sasuke quickly tried to move, but the sticky ink on the ground held Sasuke's feet still, while the ink of the same kind stuck Sasuke's kusanagi to the ground. Sasuke quickly tried to throw the kunai away, but the leftover sticky ink from his hand made it stick to it just enough. Seeing this, Sakura quickly ran to Sai. "Don't do it! Don't hurt Sasuke-kun!" yelled Sakura. This would be the slow-motion running part. Sai prepared to detonate the explosive tag but stopped as Sakura ran up in the way of the range of explosion. "Sakura," Sai said in surprise, just in enough time to stop himself from making the tag explode. Seeing his window of opportunity, Sasuke quickly performed the Chidori current and broke out of the sticky ink, then ran up to Sai in blinding speed and punched in the stomach, making him collapse on Sakura's roof and knocked out. Sakura's eyes were full of tears seeing Sai on the ground, roof, knocked out. Just then, Sasuke picked Sai up. holding him under his arms, then looked back at Sakura. "I have to go," he said back in his evil way again and disappeared with an unconscious sigh under his arms, leaving Sakura on her roof silently crying as one of her teammates has been taken hostage. The next morning, Naruto awakened from his slumber, yawning and stretching his arms as high as they can go. "Today is the day of the Valentine's Day festival," shouted Naruto as he jumped off of his bed and changed his clothes. "Oh, Hinata is going to love the present I got her." He grinned as he looked at the wrapped present box. "Time to go," he said to himself. He picked up the box and walked out of the door. "Good morning, Naruto," came a voice behind Naruto after he stepped off of his last step. Kakashi-sensei," Naruto muttered as he turned to see his sensei standing there with a smile across his face. "Why are you here?" "Hey, is that any way to greet someone in the morning, Naruto?" asked Kakashi with his same smile on his face. "Well, in any case, I thought I'd treat Team 7 to breakfast today. Be at the Konoha breakfast shop in 5 minutes. Oh, and find Sai, too, and let him know. I'll find Yamato and Sakura." "See ya then," said Kakashi with a quick wave of his hand and disappeared into a cloud of smoke. "Kakashi is treating us to breakfast. Okay, well, it's time to find Sai, then. Now where would he be?" Naruto asked himself. He placed his hand up to his chin and began to think of Sai reading a book. The library. I'll check there first. In the library, Naruto scaled the aisles in search of Sai but to no avail. "He's not here. Oh well, I'll just go to breakfast now, and tell them I couldn't find him," said the lazy Naruto as he placed his hands behind his head and walked to the Konoha breakfast shop. "So Kakashi, to what do we owe this occasion?" said a smiling Yamato as he sat across from Kakashi at the breakfast shop. Oh, well, I figured you guys deserved it," said Kakashi rubbing the back of his head. "Hiya guys," shouted Naruto as he walked in and sat down next to Yamato. "So, what are we having? I am starving." "We haven't ordered yet," said Kakashi as he looked at Naruto, then noticed something. "Where's Sai?" "I couldn't find him. I don't know where he could be. He wasn't at the library and that is where he usually is at. By the way, where is Sakura-chan?" asked Naruto looking around. "Here I am," said Sakura with a lower than normal voice tone, walking into the shop and sitting down next to Kakashi. "Sorry I am late, everyone." Naruto smiled at the pink-headed ninja. "Hey Sakura-chan. Happy Valentine's Day." "Hey, Sakura, have you seen Sai anywhere?" asked Yamata. Suddenly, the happenings of the previous night of Sai getting kidnapped by Sasuke flashed into her mind. Nevertheless, she covered it up. "No, I haven't seen him, either," lied Sakura. That's odd. Where could he be?" asked Kakashi. "He isn't usually hard to find." Sakura's heart began to beat fast and she began to sweat a little uneasily. Naruto looked over at her and looked on carefully. "Ah, Sakura-chan. Are you hot? You're sweating," said Naruto looking at her. Sakura snapped back to the present moment and looked at Naruto shockingly, then calmed to a fake smile. "Yay, kinda. Well, in any case, we should eat up. Tsunade will be starting up the Valentine Day festival. We'll run into him sooner or later," suggested Kakashi as the waiters brought out the food. "Yeah, time to eat," exclaimed Naruto as he began to chow down. Sakura's mind was still fixated on Sai's kidnapping by Sasuke to the point where all she did to her food was stab at it with her fork softly. "Not hungry, Sakura?" asked Kakashi looking at Sakura's plate. "Oh, no, just thinking," she said with a reassuring fake smile. After everyone finished eating, Kakashi, Yamata, Sakura and Naruto all proceeded onto the gates of the Konoha festival where everyone was gathered in waiting for Tsunade to make her opening Valentine's Day festival speech before the gates open. I wonder if Hinata got back from that mission, yet, said Naruto looking around the many crowded people for her. I can't wait to see her expression when I give her this ultimate Valentine's gift. Sakura stood there looking into space with the incident still on her mind and her Valentine's Day gift box in her hand. Hey, Sakura, came a voice. Sakura turned around and noticed Ino walking up to her. Hey there, Ino, said Sakura. Hey, have you seen Sai? I have this present for him but I haven't been able to find him, said Ino looking around while standing next to Sakura. Oh, no, I haven't seen him, said Sakura lying again. Oh, so you've been looking for him as well, Ino? Asked Kakashi walking up to both kunoichis. Ino faced Kakashi. Yeah, but I haven't been able to find him. I haven't seen him since he came into the flower shop the other day. I see. I have an idea, said Kakashi as he bit his thumb and performed hand seals. Kachiyose no jutsu. Summoning technique. He then placed his hand on the ground surface, summoning up all of his ninja dogs. Listen up. Sai is missing. I need you to locate him, said Kakashi to his nin dogs. Ah, that would be no problem but it would be easier if we had something to smell of his to track his scent, said Pakun, the head talking dog of the pack. Oh, I remember, he left this with me, said Ino as she pulled out Sai's drawing book that he left with her the other day. That'll work, said Kakashi as he nodded to Ino to let Pakun and the other dogs smell Sai's drawing book. Ino nodded and let the dog pack smell and sniff the drawing book. All right, we have a trail of his scent. We'll report back to you, Kakashi, once we discover his whereabouts, said Pakun as the dogs then scattered. Pakun and the other dogs are on the job. Now, they'll find him for sure, said Yamato with a reassuring smile to Team 7. Suddenly, Tsunade walked out on the ledge and looked down onto everyone preparing to start her speech. Good morning all of Konoha. As you all know, today is Valentine's Day and as such, we are celebrating it by having this festival. As all of you know also, it is tradition in Konoha to give the one you admire a present. I see there are a lot of people who have presents. That's great to see. Well, be sure to wait for that special moment to hand them over and be sure to have fun, said Tsunade as she smiled upon the many people of Konoha. The doors to the festival began to open and everyone rushed in with a big grin upon their faces. Well, I will see you guys later. I am off, said Kakashi as he poofed away with a cloud of smoke. Why does he always do that? What can't he ever just walk away? Said Naruto as a joke with a laugh, then looked at Sakura's facial expression. Sakura-chan? You don't look so good. Are you alright? Naruto looked at Naruto and gave her same phony smile. Yeah. So what do you want to do first? Asked Sakura as she walked with Naruto. Well, I was looking for Hinata but I guess she didn't get back from her mission yet, said Naruto as he looked at the present he was holding. This is so cool, Sakura-chan. Today is a happy day. A great day that nothing can ruin, exclaimed Naruto walking with his head held high. Naruto, I need to tell you something. About Sai, said Sakura holding her present and beginning to show signs of tears in her eyes. About Sai? Asked Naruto. I can't say it here. Follow me, said Sakura softly to Naruto as she grabbed his hand and led the way to a quiet place to confess. Unknowingly to Naruto, Hinata, just walking into the front gates, was looking for him holding a gift for him as well. Hey Hinata, do you see him yet? asked Kiba to Hinata. No. Maybe he didn't come, guessed Hinata. Oh, he's here all right. I mean, Naruto wouldn't stay home on a day like today, said Kiba, convincing her that Naruto was there. There he is, Hinata, said Shino, pointing a finger to direct Hinata to him. Hinata looked into the direction that Shino pointed to and saw Naruto walking away from the crowd with Sakura. Hinata gave a smile as she began to walk after them slowly, all the while thinking on how Naruto's reaction will be to the present she got him while on her mission. Meanwhile, Sakura, while holding Naruto's hand still, led him away from the crowd and onto a high wooden shack. Once inside the wooden shack, Sakura let go of Naruto's hand and slowly turned her head away from him. Sakura-chan, said Naruto, slowly looking at the back of her head while leaning slightly on the wall of that small shack. Naruto. Sakura slowly turned around to face him, her face wet from tears. Naruto's glare never turned away from her face. He remained silent and sad to see Sakura so troubled. Naruto. Sasuke kidnapped Sai. What? Sasuke, said Naruto. When did this happen? I am sorry. I couldn't stop him. I couldn't, said Sakura with overwhelming tears streaming down her face. Sakura-chan. Don't worry about it. We'll get him back. I promise, said Naruto, giving a thumbs-up pose to Sakura to reassure her. Sakura looked at Naruto closely. It was that look again. That same look that he gave when he promised her to bring back Sasuke. Naruto. You're always there for me, said Sakura as her tears continued to fall. She continued to look at Naruto's smile as if things will be fine in no time and began to feel a little better. Trust me, Sakura-chan. Sakura took a hand and wiped her tears from her cheek, then suddenly lunged out to Naruto and embraced him in a loving hug. Naruto's eyes widened as the embrace took him by surprise. Sakura-chan, Naruto said slowly and lowly as Sakura burrowed her head snugly on his chest. Naruto slowly, to comfort her, slowly brought his arms around her. Meanwhile, Hinata made her way to the wood shack with a smile upon her face. I hope Naruto-kun likes this, she said to herself as she turned into the shack, but quickly stepped back out of the shack after seeing the image of Naruto hugging Sakura against a wall. Hinata's heart began to beat fast and hard in her chest. And Naruto-kun? She said in her mind as she slowly peeked around the corner and saw Naruto hugging Sakura. The image haunted her mind for that short amount of time and instantly made her smile fade to a depressing, sad face. She looked at the present she was holding and began to cry slowly. Now depressed, Hinata placed the present with the tag labeled for Naruto on the outside of the shack and left with a broken heart. Sakura let go of Naruto and gave him a smile. Thank you, Naruto. No problem, now all we gotta do is find out where Sasuke took Sai. Any ideas? Asked Naruto. No. Maybe Pakun will find out soon. It's best just to wait until we hear from them in Kakashi, said Sakura, analyzing. Yeah, in the meantime, let's go have some fun, said Naruto with a shout of excitement. Hey, where's Hinata? Asked Sakura, on a mission. I was hoping she'd be back by now, said Naruto. I have a present for her. The Valentine's Day festival went on from there as scheduled. The party lasted all day long and everyone was having a blast. Hours later, at night with a couple minutes before closing time for the festival, Naruto, eating cotton candy, walked along with Sakura laughing and talking. Today was one of the best days ever, shouted Naruto excitedly. I hope that Hinata will be back soon though. I really wanted to give her this present, said Naruto looking at the present in his hand. Hey, Naruto, came a voice shouting to Naruto. Naruto turned to face the person calling him. Hey Kiba, What's up? Said Naruto. Ah, nothing. Just been hanging out with Shino all day here, said Kiba with a smile. So how was your time with Hinata? Did you like the gift she got for you? What do you mean? She never came here, said Naruto a little confused. Yeah, she did. She tried to catch up with you when you were leaving up to the shack. You didn't see her? Asked Kiba. No, I didn't. Wait. The shack. Naruto quickly ran from Kiba and the others and jumped up to the shack that Sakura led him to earlier. Once there, Naruto looked around to see if he saw Hinata, but to no avail. What's that? Naruto saw a present on the ground and he kneeled to pick it up, then read the tag. To me. From Hinata. Naruto quickly tore open the package and gasped at what he found. It's a ticket to the ramen exhibit, shouted Naruto. I thought those tickets were sold out. They were said to be impossible to get, Naruto said to himself as he started to tear up from the present. Later that night, after the closing of the park, Naruto walked alone thinking about Hinata while holding the ticket and the present he had for her. He continued to walk when suddenly he saw someone that made him cheer up greatly. Hinata! He shouted out to her. She was walking home alone in the night, as was just about everyone leaving from the festival. In the shadows of the night, Sasuke, unknowing to everyone, watched on at Naruto, waiting for a chance to begin phase 1 of Orochimaru's plans, which called for Naruto. Hinata turned around slowly and saw Naruto. "En Naruto-kun," said Hinata slowly and depressingly sad. "Hinata, I am so glad I caught up to you. I wanted to give you this present all day long. Here. I hope you like it," said Naruto, handing over the present in the moonlight. Starting to cheer up a little, Hinata took the present and opened to reveal the necklace she was eyeing before. "En Naruto-kun," said Hinata with a lost for words at the extravagant present. "Hinata, I just want to say that I am sorry I didn't get to spend time with you today," he said as he took the necklace from her softly to place it around her neck. "Can I?" asked Naruto, signaling to place the necklace on her himself. Giving a blush, Hinata nodded positively and lifted up her long hair as Naruto placed the necklace around her neck. Once on, Naruto backed up and looked how beautifully it shined in the moonlight on her. Suddenly, a voice came from a dark area close to them. "Naruto, you will come with me," said the voice. "Huh? Who's there? Show yourself," shouted Naruto to the shadowy figure. From the shadows, Sasuke stepped out wearing his sound ninja attire. "Sasuke," said Naruto. "Naruto, Orochimaru needs you for his plans. Come with me. Fail to comply and I will have to take matters into my own hands by forcing you to come with me." "Let's see you try," said Naruto with a snappy reply as he got in battle position, leaving Hinata out of the battle area. "HMPH. You asked for it," said Sasuke as he suddenly disappeared. Naruto began to look around for Sasuke but couldn't sense him. Show yourself, Sasuke." Suddenly, a thud noise could be heard as if someone was just quickly struck. "Too late, Naruto," said Sasuke from behind Naruto. What the?" yelled Naruto as he saw a knocked-out Hinata under Sasuke's arms. "Let her go," yelled Naruto, his anger building up quickly. "If you want her back, come to the old haunted house where the first festival took place. Go to the 4th chamber floor. We'll be waiting there. Come alone or there will be unnecessary deaths. We'll be waiting," said Sasuke as he disappeared with a knocked-out Hinata. "Grr, Sasuke," yelled out Naruto as the Kyuubi's energy began to leak out from his anger. "What? This is bad. So that's what happened to Sai," said Tsunade at her desk with her hand to her forehead. And now they have Hinata, said Kakashi thinking. I am going, yelled Naruto as he turned and began to rush toward Tsunade's office door. Wait, Naruto. That's just what Orochimaru wants you to do. He figured that you would come when Sasuke kidnapped Sai. Since you didn't. Tsunade kept on her sentence. They targeted the person closest to you, being Hinata Hyuga, Kakashi finishing Tsunade's sentence. It doesn't matter now. All that matters is getting Hinata and Sai back, and I'm going to do that tonight, said Naruto walking toward the door once more. Naruto. Calm down. I know how you feel, but if you go rushing in without some sort of plan, you'll be falling right into Orochimaru's plans, said Kakashi. Then what are we going to do? Said Naruto as he turned to face them once more. Well, from what Jiraiya told us, Orochimaru needs you in order to perform his resurrection jutsu. So, I think it's best if you stay out of this, Naruto, said Tsunade. What? Yelled Naruto in surprise. Don't worry. I will send Anbu to the location you told us where Sasuke said you should go, Tsunade said to Naruto leaning upward in her chair. No, I am going. He took Sai and Hinata. If I don't go, he's just going to keep taking people until I do go. Next will probably be Sakura-chan. Then Konohamaru, said Naruto as he slammed his hand on the surface of Tsunade's desk. Tsunade took a deep breath. Fine. You can go. But I am only allowing you to go if you can find at least 2 team captains for this and 6 members. I think it is necessary for 2 team captains for this job. Just in case you need extra help. As soon as you can recruit, you can move out. All right, said Naruto, then looked at his sensei with a smirk. Kakashi-sensei? Fine, I guess I'll be your team captain, said Kakashi with a smile. Great, now I just need 6 members and another team captain, said Naruto as he began to think who he could recruit. Who else could we get? Suddenly, Guy came running into the Hokage office with Lee. Haha. I heard you were going on a mission that requires 2 captains, Guy said to Kakashi. Kakashi looked at Guy weirdly. How did you hear about it? We just said it 2 minutes ago. Guy looked back at Kakashi with a big smile. You'd be amazed what the power of youth can do, right, Lee? Right, shouted Lee with respect to his sensei. Right. Well, hey, now you have 2 captains. Now we just need 6 members, said Kakashi to Naruto. Lee's eyes gave a twitch. Naruto-kun. I would like to help as well if I can. Naruto smiled and nodded to his bushy brow friend. Great. Now we just need 5 inches. I'll go as well. It's been a while since last I helped you out, Naruto, came a familiar voice. Naruto looked over towards the doorway to see who said that. Kiba, shouted Naruto with a smile. Haha. I am in. No one takes a teammate of mine and gets away with it, said Kiba with a fist. I'll go as well, came a voice behind Kiba. Kiba and Naruto turned and looked to see who volunteered. Shikamaru. I heard you were going on a rescue mission. I'll help as well, said Shikamaru. Kakashi turned toward Tsunade. How is everyone hearing about this? Was there an announcement or something that we missed? Whispered Kakashi to Tsunade. Tsunade shrugged as she was puzzled to how everyone was finding out about this. Okay, so we have Kakashi-sensei and Guy-sensei for team captain. Then there's me. And as for the 6 more members, we have bushy brows, Kiba and Shikamaru. That leaves 3 more people, analyzed Naruto. Whoa, shouted Kiba in surprise out of nowhere. Naruto jumped up in response to Kiba. What? He asked Kiba. Kiba's shocked face went to a devious smirk. I didn't know you could count, said Kiba, then started chuckling in humor. Tsunade couldn't help but chuckle at Kiba's joke as well. "Shut up, Kiba. This is no time for jokes like that," shouted Naruto with a goofy rage to a laughing Kiba. Shikamaru rubbed his ears after hearing Naruto yelling, "Take it easy, Naruto. It was just a joke. Besides, we still need 3 more people. The quicker we find them, the quicker we can start the mission," said Shikamaru calmly. "You're right, Shikamaru. So who should we recruit next?" "Hey, Ilgo," came a voice from the door. Everyone turned to see who it was this time. "Ino. You wanna go on this mission, too? But you don't even know the specifics of this mission?" asked Shikamaru. "Yeah, I do. It's a rescue mission. And I'd like to help. But that still leaves us with 2 more people to recruit," said Ino as she walked into the room. Kakashi leaned once again over to Tsunade. "How does she know?" asked a weirded-out Kakashi. Tsunade, once again, shrugged her shoulders as she was just as clueless as Kakashi. Suddenly, Sakura walked into the Hokage office. "And if Ino Pig is going, then I'll go." Ino snickered at Sakura in a friendly rivalry way. "Sakura-chan. That's great. Now we just need 1 more person," said Naruto, getting excited. Suddenly, there was another voice at the door of the Hokage. "I'll go," said a lower voice. Everyone turned and looked at the door, and to their surprise, saw who was their last volunteer was Gaara. Naruto walked up to Gaara and smiled. "Gaara, what are you doing here?" "I couldn't get any cage work done. That woman, she is too loud and annoying to have as a slave for this long," said Gaara in his usual slow tone. "So I'm letting Kankuro and Temari order her around as punishment for making me have to leave to find some peace." "I don't blame him. Anko is a loud person, indeed," said Tsunade with a smirk, along with Shizune holding Tonton the pig. "Anyways, I'll go on this mission of yours. Anything to kill the boredom," said Gaara with his hands crossed. Naruto smiled big. "Yes. This is great. Now the team is set, finally." Didn't have to do much. Everyone mysteriously popped in and instantly knew about the mission, said Kakashi, rubbing his head. Shizune started to laugh after seeing Kakashi and Tsunade's weirded out faces. "Shizune, what is it?" asked Tsunade. "Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but the reason everyone knows of the mission is because your elbow is on the intercom button. The loudspeaker is on. That is how everyone found out about it." Tsunade looked down at her elbow. It was holding down the intercom button as Shizune had said. "Oh," said Tsunade with a goofy face. "That explains it," said Kakashi, shaking his head. "Anyways, let's move out, team," said Kakashi and Guy at the same time. "Right," yelled everyone and proceeded towards the door. As they walked towards the door, Naruto looked at everyone that volunteered, then looked at Shikamaru. "Hey, Shikamaru?" Shikamaru looked at Naruto. Why did you volunteer to help? I would have thought you would say it was too troublesome to be involved in," said Naruto. Shikamaru looked up at the roof of the building as they walked. "Because remember when you made that promise to Sakura?" said Shikamaru, waiting for Naruto's response. "Yeah, I remember," said Naruto, looking at the side of Shikamaru's face. "As I said back then, I didn't even like Sasuke. Normally I wouldn't do anything for a guy like him. But he was a comrade of ours once. And I told you that I would help you keep your promise, so." Naruto walked listening silently still. "So." Shikamaru looked at Naruto with a smirk of confidence. "Let's go bring him home." Outside of the strange haunted house entrance, the newly formed team stood ready for anything. Alright, let's go inside and finish this, said Naruto, getting pumped up and ran toward the door with loads of energy. Naruto, hold up, shouted Kakashi, stopping Naruto from charging down the door. We don't know what is inside of there. We should really proceed with extreme caution. Kakashi-sensei's right, agreed Shikamaru. It's more than likely that you'll be running right into a trap by just charging in so carelessly. Naruto stopped his charge and turned to face the team. Okay, then what do you suppose we do then? We can't just stand outside this mansion all night. It's not like a portal or something is going to open right before our eyes, leading us to Orochimaru and the others, said Naruto sarcastically. Wah! Where am I? Said Sai, waking up from his unconsciousness. What is this place? Said Sai as he observed the scene of a dungeon-like gloomy room lit with a couple candles along the wall. He shook his head and continued to observe his surroundings. He noticed he was tied to a pole with very weird feeling rope that was rather tightly tied. He continued to examine the rope and it appeared to not be what he thought was a regular rope. They're not normal ropes, came a voice directed toward Sai. Sai turned his head and noticed that he wasn't alone. There, in the darkness along the wall, was Hinata tied to another pole. You're Hinata Hyuga, right? Asked Sai to Hinata. Yes. I was kidnapped by Sasuke Uchiha. Suddenly, a evil chuckle approached the tied-up Sai and Hinata. A man slowly walked into their vision. You guys are finally awake, I see. I didn't think that sleep jutsu would keep you guys out for that long, said Kabuto, fixing his glasses upon his face. I remember you. Subordinate to Orochimaru. Kabuto, said Sai with his normal face. Yes, I remember you as well. I made an info card on you. The one called Sai. Although I don't have much info on you, yet, you are quite the mysterious type, said Kabuto, holding up Sai's info card, then smirked. We were so sure that Naruto-kun would show after your capture. That proved to be an error in our initial plan. So you kidnapped Hinata to make up for your error, said Sai as he struggled to get free. Yes. She seems to be very close to Naruto-kun, so we are certain he will show for her, Kabuto said, looking toward the long-haired Hyuga girl, then looked back at Sai. Oh. And I wouldn't struggle if I were you. Those ropes are not normal ropes. In fact, they're snakes that are binding you to the pillars. Sai and Hinata became surprised and shocked hearing about the snakes that were holding them. They are a special breed that can constrict for a very long time. In addition, they are venomous. Very venomous. If you struggle, it will cause them to become alert and defensive. If that happens, they may bite you and inject venom into your system. Then I calculate you would have 20 minutes to get an antidote in your system. If not, you will die, said Kabuto, turning his back on them and walking away. Sai and Hinata become very nervous to their situation. Hinata, try to be as still as you can possibly be, said Sai, trying to think of a way out. Hinata slightly nodded her head as sweat began to form and drip from her forehead. There has to be a way out of this situation, said Sai to himself while the venom snakes slithering against his body. In another chamber. So, I see he has finally arrived, said Orochimaru to the approaching Kabuto. Yes, I calculated him coming alone, though, ya know, with his statistics of being ruled by his temper and whatnot. Orochimaru chuckled evilly. I have taken precautions for this. I knew that Tsunade and Jiraiya wouldn't let him come alone. Precautions? I have prepared something special for his friends to deal with while we get that Kyuubi energy, said Orochimaru in a low evil tone. I see. They are at the main doors. Shall we open them for them? Said Kabuto. No, open the Nexus portal. That will lead them to the first chambers and will separate Naruto from his friends. As you wish, said Kabuto as he performed a strange jutsu. Ninpo, Nexus Path Jutsu, said Kabuto. Orochimaru gave evil laughter. It's close. The destruction of Konoha. I can feel it. Back outside the haunted building. 5 seconds after Naruto said the comment about a portal opening up randomly, suddenly, a red and black swirly portal opened behind Naruto. Naruto turned around and to his surprise, saw a portal. This is Orochimaru's doing, said Kakashi as he observed the portal. That's the Nexus portal. If you go inside, it will lead you to the inner chambers of the haunted house. Orochimaru must have summoned it, said Tsunade walking up behind the team. But why would he open a portal for us, though? Asked Ino. That's easy. He wants us to enter, analyzed Shikamaru. But if it leads us inside to the inner chambers, then we should let it go to waste. Then let's go, shouted Naruto as he began to walk toward the portal. You're going to need a mode of transportation. Before you make it to the chambers, you will have to journey through the inner dimensions of this nexus, which is most likely booby-trapped, said Tsunade. But why would he booby-trap our way to the inner chamber? Asked Sakura. Seems to me that this nexus thing was designed to get rid of us, only allowing Naruto to pass, said Kiba. That's exactly it. It's Naruto that Orochimaru wants, so the booby traps won't target him in fear of killing or injuring him, said Tsunade. Jiraiya and I have been through this nexus inner dimension path. If you walk, it'll take a good 48 hours to get through it and make it to the other side to the chambers. 2 days, said Kakashi thinking. I still don't understand this whole nexus thing. Why don't we just go through the doors? And what exactly is inside of this nexus thing? Is it another village or something? Said Naruto confused. Shikamaru walked over to Naruto. Here, I'll explain it a little easier for you, he said. It's like that tunnel of destined love ride. You start on the outside of it, in the front, with your destination being the other side of the tunnel. To make it to the other side, you have to go through the tunnel. This nexus portal is like that. You can't get to the other side unless you pass through the nexus. And since the nexus formed inches off of the doors, we can't enter through them. Tsunade went on to explain the rest to Naruto. For Shikamaru, it's not a village inside. It's a vortex actually, but it has traps set for everyone except you. Although, the vortex can be changed by Orochimaru to a scenery of any location. For example, it'll start out white and void once you enter. But Orochimaru can change the vortex into a place, like the mountains or even the moon if he wants to. Of course you won't actually be on the moon. It'll just feel like it because of the vortex's property changes. Oh, I get it now, said Naruto. So, what are we going to do? If we walked, it will take us 2 days, asked Rock Lee. That is where I come in, said Tsunade with a smirk. Oh no, you don't mean, said Kakashi, having a feeling what she was going to offer them. Yep, you'll have to use my extreme bumper cars. With those, it'll take you about 2 to 4 hours tops to get there, said Tsunade. Alright, that's a lot better than 2 days. Let's go, shouted Naruto. Here, you'll need these, said Tsunade as she threw everyone a key. These will turn on your extreme bumper car. Naruto caught his key and smirked. Yes, let's go, said Naruto as he ran to Tsunade's extreme bumper car ride and jumped into the number 5 orange bumper car, then placed the key in and turned it on. Soon after, everyone followed suit. Rock Lee jumped into the green number 1 car. Sakura jumped into the pink number 2 car. Ino jumped into the purple number 3 car. Kiba jumped into the gray number 4 car. with the giant-size Akamaru sitting on the back weighing the car down some. Gaara jumped into the red number 6 car. Kakashi jumped into the blue number 7 car. Shikamaru jumped into the black number 8 car. And lastly, Guy jumped into the dark green number 9 car, then looked at Kakashi. "Hey Kakashi, let's race. First one to the end of the Nexus wins. If I lose, I have to do 100,000 push-ups with one finger." Kakashi looked at Guy with a weirded look. Maybe some other time." Shikamaru slowly started his car and looked over to Kakashi and Guy. "Hey, I think we should assign teams before we go into the Nexus zone." That's a good idea, Shikamaru," said Kakashi. "To balance out the teams, I have formed them. On your team, Kakashi-sensei, will be Naruto, Sakura, and Gaara." Shikamaru then looked at Guy, "And on your team, Guy-sensei, will be Lee, Ino, Hiba and me." "Got it," said Guy. Then he threw everyone a walkie-talkie. "These will keep us in touch." "Be careful," said Tsunade waving at them. Naruto and the others gave a assuring nod. "Oh, I think I should tell you guys that it is not necessary to press hard on the gas pedal," said Kakashi. Remember his last time riding an extreme bumper car. But before heeding Kakashi's words, Naruto thrusted his foot down forcibly on the gas and suddenly shot him quickly into the Nexus, with him screaming from it going so fast. Everyone looked on the screeching path Naruto's car left on the ground from him moving so fast. Even Gaara was surprised. "He won't have to worry about dying from booby traps if he continues driving like that," said Gaara as he pressed lightly on the gas and went in after the goofy screaming Naruto into the Nexus. "Tried to warn him," said Kakashi as everyone else drove into the Nexus, leaving Tsunade behind shaking her head with a laugh as she could still hear Naruto's goofy screams from it going fast. "I hope they will succeed," said Tsunade to herself as she watched the Nexus portal close behind the team while still hearing Naruto's girly scream echo starting to fade. Journeying through the Nexus zone, Naruto and company continued through the white voided zone, driving their bumper cars at a steady rate. The Nexus zone was as white and void as ever. There had been no changes nor booby traps sprung as of yet for the 10 minutes they've been traveling. Naruto, also, seemed to gain control of his bumper car finally. Kiba drove up to Naruto and rode alongside him. "So Naruto, seems you finally got the hang of driving." Naruto chuckled. Hee, no sweat. I just pressed too hard on the pedal is all. And it caught me by surprise," said Naruto, taking one hand off the wheel and rubbing it through his hair and chuckling. "Well, if you would just wait and listen once in a while you wouldn't have been screaming like an idiot," said Sakura, passing them up. "He wouldn't have looked like one, either," said Gaara in his normal low tone as he passed them up as well, leaving Naruto with a goofy depressed look on his face from being called an idiot twice in the same insult. All the while, Rock Lee drove his bumper car alongside Guy, Kakashi and Shikamaru. Guy looked over at Kakashi and gave a grin. Kakashi, feeling that Guy was looking at him with one of his "I am about to challenge you to a meaningless event" look, turned to look at Guy. Something wrong, Guy?" asked Kakashi with an innocent face. Guy chuckled. "Nothing at all, my worthy rival. What is the game plan for when we reach the end of the Nexus zone?" "Well, I haven't thought that far," said Kakashi, looking upward. "I am thinking we could split up using the teams that Shikamaru constructed and do a search party in the chamber. Looks like my calculations were off once again. I didn't expect them to drive through the Nexus zone," said Kabuto. "Let's change the scenery of the Nexus zone to something more challenging," said Orochimaru to Kabuto as they observed Naruto and company through a portal opening. "All right, Let's see if they can handle the stormy mountain-top regions, said Kabuto as he performed some hand seals to change the Nexus's appearance and area to a stormy mountain region. I may also have a way of getting rid of everyone in a more sufficient way, Orochimaru-sama, said Kabuto with a smirk. And what would that be? Said Orochimaru. There's a 78% chance that they are thinking that we are not going to target Naruto-kun in worry of killing him before we can use him. So, in a reverse psychological sense, we should target Naruto-kun. By doing that, I am sure the others will aid him in any way they can. Thus, making them use up their chakra and getting them tired and weary for if they get to the other side of the Nexus, said Kabuto. Not bad, Kabuto. You've really thought this through. Fine, let's proceed with the plans. Make sure to change the Nexus's area every so often. We have to give our guests a challenge after all. Konoha will be destroyed soon enough, said Orochimaru, chuckling evilly. Back in the Nexus Zone. The team continued on through the Void Nexus Zone when suddenly the white space of the zone began to change to a rocky mountainous area with lightning striking at the ground. What's going on? We're at the mountains now, asked Naruto. Orochimaru changed the Nexus Zone properties. Be careful everyone, shouted Kakashi. Rock Lee looked at the rocky path they were now driving on, then looked down and noticed that they were driving on the side cliff of a mountain, very high up. Suddenly, lightning struck in front of Naruto's car, which made him swerve off to the side. Thinking quickly, Naruto turned his wheel and regained control. Phew! That was close. I almost fell off this mountain, said Naruto, continuing to drive. Suddenly, lightning began to rapidly strike all over the mountain they were on. Evasive maneuvers everyone, shouted Guy into the walkie-talkies. Everyone began to swerve and drift out of the way of the lightning bolts as best as they could, but the lightning bolts continued to rain upon them. Naruto having the most trouble with his lack of driving know-how. Darn it, said Naruto, still dodging lightning. Shikamaru continued to slide his car and dodge the lightning while looking over to see Gaara, Lee, Ino and Kiba having little trouble dodging. This has become quite troublesome, said Shikamaru. Just when things couldn't get worse, a lightning bolt shot down and grazed the front of Kiba's car, making it circle and swerve out of control with Akamaru on the back holding on, trying not to fall off. Kiba! Shouted Naruto as he forgot about dodging lightning for the moment and drove as close to Kiba as he could, then reached over to try and grab him. Kiba! Grab on! Shouted Naruto. Kiba, with one hand, tried to grab Naruto's hand but to no avail. Naruto! Reach further! Shouted Kiba. His car began to slip to the edge of the mountainous trail and, with Akamaru on the back, slipped further and further away from Naruto's car and hand. Another lightning bolt then suddenly shot down, as if on purpose, in between Naruto and Kiba, making Kiba's car fall off the edge. No, Kiba! Shouted Naruto as he looked down the mountain for Kiba and Akamaru but had fallen too far down to be seen, but an explosion could be heard from his car supposedly crashing to the ground far below. Then, as if on cue, another lightning bolt shot down right in front of Naruto's car, making him quickly dodge off to the side. This troublesome lightning, thought Naruto as he wanted to go back to see if Kiba was all right. Naruto! Shouted Kakashi, quickly driving up alongside Naruto. Kakashi-sensei! Shouted Naruto in response when he was quickly interrupted with another lightning bolt. But this time, it was going to directly hit Naruto. Naruto looked up and became surprised and shocked that he was about to be hit this time and couldn't avoid it. Thinking quickly, Kakashi formed a set of hand seals, then jumped up out of his bumper car, making it drive off the mountain and exploding on contact with the ground below. In the air, Kakashi quickly placed his hands together. Reikuri, lightning blade, shouted Kakashi as he landing on the hood of Naruto's bumper car and directed his Reikuri jutsu upward to the bolt and making contact with it, splitting the huge lightning bolt in half and away from both him and Naruto. That was a close one, said Naruto as he continued to drive and caught up with the others with Kakashi riding on top of the hood as if he were surfing the ocean waves. Kakashi-sensei, Kiba, he's alright, said Kakashi not bothering to turn around when suddenly, Kiba riding on Akamaru's back, came up behind Naruto's car. Hey Naruto, next time, reach out further. I could have died, said Kiba with a smirk riding the big Akamaru. Naruto smirked back to his friend and gave a confident snicker to the remark as they finally caught up the everyone. In the chamber, Sai continued to think of possible ways of getting out of the trap that they were in. Hummed Sai lightly. Hinata looking up and at Sai. Are you alright? Asked Hinata. I think I might know how to get out of here. It's risky though. Very risky, said Sai sweating. What is it? Asked Hinata nicely as always. These ropes are nothing but snakes. If I remember right, if a snake feels threatened, it'll attack. All I need to do is produce that feeling of threat to your snake toward me. That may very well be the only way out of this. What? Said Hinata, shocked to hear what she was hearing him say. That way, your snake will leave you unbound and will come after me as well as my snake. That will give you a time span of about 3 seconds to attack them both while their attention is on me. 3 seconds? Said Hinata, worried if she could do such a task. Alright, let's try it, she said with confidence. Sai gave a nod and prepared his ink from his palette. Later, back in the Nexus Zone. How long have we been going so far? Asked Ino. It's been about an hour and a half now, answered Rock Lee. Hey, look there, pointed Naruto to the far-off distance at what looks like a red and black swirly object. That looks like the end of the Nexus Zone, said Gaara, finishing Naruto's statement. Almost there, said Sakura with a glad facial expression. Alright, let's go, shouted Naruto excitedly, forgetting that Kakashi was still surfing on the hood of his car. Kakashi suddenly became worried. Naruto, don't, shouted Kakashi as he felt that Naruto's excitement was going to make him do something. Hold on Kakashi-sensei, shouted Naruto as he stomped down on the gas pedal like before and shot his car super fast toward the end portal of the Nexus. The suddenly thrust in speed making Kakashi fly off the hood of the car. Quickly reacting, Kakashi reached his hand after being thrown off the hood and caught the back trunk of the bumper car and hung on as his legs swung freely behind. Guy, seeing Naruto speed off with Kakashi hanging onto the back of the car, grinned. Haha. That's the spirit. Let your youth explode, shouted Guy as he, too, pressed hard on the gas and shot quickly after them toward the Nexus's end. Following soon after, the rest made it to the end of the Nexus and went through. The end of the Nexus portal took the team of shinobis to a dark hall within what looked like a castle dungeon chamber hall lit slightly with candles. Everyone stopped their cars and jumped out. Kiba jumped off Akamaru and walked up to the rest. The room was big and had 4 long hallways leading different ways. 4 different ways to go, analyzed Shikamaru. I wonder where they lead to, said Sakura standing next to Ino. We'll split up. That way, we can cover more ground that way, said Kakashi, thinking. Naruto, you and Sakura go that way, said Kakashi, forming the mini-teams and pointing them to the way they should go. Shikamaru, you, Ino and Kiba go that way, as he pointed to another way. Gaara, you and Lee go that way, And Kakashi and I will take the last passageway. Remember guys, if you come across Orochimaru or Sai and Hinata, radio back and alert us," informed Guy. "Okay. Everyone knows their mission. Now, let's go," said Kakashi to everyone, and with that, they all separated as Kakashi ordered. Naruto and Sakura walked down the east path. Lee and Gaara walked down the north path. Shikamaru, Kiba and Ino walked down the south path. And Kakashi and Guy walked down the west path. "I am almost there. Don't worry Hinata and Sai. We're coming. And we're coming for you too, Sasuke," said Naruto in his mind as they reached the chamber doors. In Orochimaru's chamber, they have reached the end of the nexus and are split up now, each about to go into a different chamber. Luckily, Naruto-kun and Sakura Haruno are about to enter chamber 4, said Kabuto with a smirk. Orochimaru gave an evil chuckle. "The fourth chamber. The chamber of regressed memories. That will be a lot of fun for Sasuke as well," said Orochimaru smirking. Suddenly, Sasuke walked into the chamber. "Sasuke-kun. Naruto-kun and Sakura-san are entering the fourth chamber," said Kabuto to Sasuke. HMPH. Sasuke slowly turned around and began to walk to where Naruto and Sakura were going. "He's on his way there now, Orochimaru-sama." Orochimaru laughed evilly. "Excellent. This will be interesting indeed," said Orochimaru. Naruto and Sakura walked down the gloomy hallway that was directed of them from Kakashi. They looked around as they walked and saw candles giving some illumination down by the chamber doors. Upon reaching the doors, Naruto and Sakura looked at each other then back at the doors. "Well, let's see what's in there," said Naruto as he grabbed the bulky chamber door's handle and pulled it open slowly. "Right," said Sakura as Naruto opened the doors widely. Once the doors were open, Naruto and Sakura walked in with caution. The room was dark. There were no candles or any form of illumination at all. "It's dark in here. I can't see a thing," said Naruto. Sakura motioned her hands to feel around but it didn't help much. Naruto motioned his hands the same as Sakura but still it wasn't any help. Suddenly, a flashing white light flooded the room in an instant flash. "What the?" yelled Naruto as the light continued to increase. "I don't know, it's getting too bright," yelled Sakura back to Naruto. The light became totally overpowering and the mysterious white light engulfed Naruto and Sakura into an unknown fate. At the other chamber door, Shikamaru, Ino and Kiba continued walking and finally reached their hallway's chamber door. Ino looked on at the evil foreshadowing door. "I wonder what's in there." "Well, only one way to find out," said Kiba as he and Shikamaru began opening the doors. Once opened, they slowly walked inside. "Oh my goodness," said Ino, putting her hands up to her mouth from the shock of what she was seeing. The room they had walked into was the room where Orochimaru kept his victims for his experiments and his jutsu. Shikamaru, Ino, Kiba and Akamaru walked further into the room and looked through the rails of the cages the people were locked in. Ino rushed over the cage and looked inside. There were tons of people inside the cage, all looking as if they had been there for a very long time. Shikamaru walked over to other side of the chamber and came upon a laboratory setting with liquids boiling and books of information opened. "Looks like someone has been performing experiments. Most likely on those people," analyzed Shikamaru. "Come on. Let's get them out of there," said Kiba as he and Ino began to try and break the giant lock on the prisoners' cages. "So, the Nexus failed to kill you guys off," came a voice from the far dark corner of the chamber. "Orochimaru-sama wouldn't like it for you guys to go and free these people." Shikamaru, Ino, Kiba and Akamaru all jumped together and got into fighting position in front of Kabuto. As if I give a damn what Orochimaru wants, said Kiba flicking off Kabuto as Akamaru barked. Kabuto chuckled. Now, was that necessary? You should really be more respectful. What are you doing with these people? Asked Ino angrily. I could tell you. But what would be the fun in that? How about this? Let's make a deal, said Kabuto fixing his glasses upon his face. What kind of deal? Asked Shikamaru. Kabuto chuckled once more. If you manage to beat me in a fight, I'll tell you. But, if I beat you guys, you will all become one of them, said Kabuto as he pointed to the dead-looking people in the jail cage, where you will stay for the rest of your lives. Kiba grinned with confidence. 4-on-1. You're okay with a handicap fight? Seems to me that someone here is a little conceited. Kabuto kept his smirk. I am not conceited. Actually, I'm far from it. I just have enough knowledge to know my odds and chances. So, enough with the talking. Let's begin, said Kabuto, getting into a battle-ready stance of his own. Kiba leaned his head slightly over to Shikamaru and Ino. Think we can take 'em? Asked Kiba. We should be able to, said Ino as she placed her hand in her bag and grabbed a shuriken and got ready. Let's not waste too much time here, said Shikamaru as he formed a hand seal. Kabuto looked on at the three and Akamaru and smirked evilly. At the other chamber door, Gaara and Lee both made it to the door. Let's go in, said Lee to Gaara. Gaara nodded slightly and Lee opened the doors. Walking inside, Gaara and Lee looked around. This chamber appeared to be nothing more than just an average-size room with nothing inside. There's nothing here, said Lee looking around. Something's not right, said Gaara. Suddenly, the chamber doors quickly and mysteriously closed behind them, closing them in the room. Surprised, both Gaara and Lee ran to the doors and tried to open them, but to no avail. It's not use. We're trapped in here, said Gaara, backing away from the door and going to examine the walls some. Most suspicious, said Lee as he walked to the other side of the chamber and examined everything. Suddenly, a trap door opened up on the side of the chamber. Seeing this, Lee and Gaara jumped back far from the wall. From the trap door, great amounts of senbon and shuriken began to fire and shoot out at Gaara and Lee seemingly endlessly. Quick, get behind me, said Gaara to Lee, seeing the shurikens and needles coming. Lee quickly flipped behind Gaara. The needles and shuriken drew nearer. Gaara, quickly, motioned his hands and made sand come up from the ground instantly, blocking the rain of throwing projectiles. After 5 minutes, the needles and shurikens stopped. Gaara, noticing this, put down his sand guard. Lee walked from behind Gaara and stood aside of him. Well, looks like the worst is over. We're safe for now, said Lee. Suddenly, water began to flood into the chamber from the sides of the wall. You were saying, said Gaara as the water began to rise at a steady pace. They are going to try and drown us, said Lee. What are we going to do now? In the last chamber, Guy and Kakashi wasted no time opening the door and walking inside. Stay sharp, Guy, advised Kakashi. No problem, said Guy as he looked around the chamber and saw nothing. Suddenly, a wall suddenly formed in between Guy and Kakashi, separating them from each other. Kakashi, called Guy. I am still here. It seems that want us separated, said Kakashi, thinking, when suddenly, a clone of Guy formed on Kakashi's side of the chamber and a Kakashi clone formed on Guy's side. What's going on? Asked Guy. I don't know, said Kakashi to Guy on the other side. A clone of you just formed on this side. Same thing happened on this side. A clone of you formed, said Guy. Well, this is strange indeed, said Guy as he got close to the Kakashi clone and examined it. Suddenly, the Guy clone charged toward Kakashi. The Kakashi clone suddenly threw a punch at Guy. The two started to fight the clones of each other. So this is the trap, said Guy. I have to fight a clone of my greatest rival. I don't mind it, said a grinning Guy fighting with the Kakashi clone. This is just to keep us busy and to keep us from the others, yelled Kakashi over to the other side where Guy was while fighting the Guy clone. In the chamber where Naruto and Sakura were, Naruto slowly came into consciousness. He was face first on the ground and was now waking up, but he didn't feel the same. Actually, he felt funny. Where am I? Asked Naruto to himself as he slowly got to his feet and looked around. To his surprise, he was no longer in the chamber. He had somehow got to the Valley of the End. How did I get here? Said Naruto. Then something else surprised him. He was in Kyuubi Chakra Tail level 1 and was back to being a younger kid again, wearing his blue and orange attire. What's going on here? It's as if I went back in time or something. No, you didn't go back in time, came a voice. Naruto looked around. He recognized that voice. Sasuke? Just then, Sasuke, in his Curse Seal level 2 mode, walked up to Naruto from his side. Naruto turned to face him. What's going on? Shouted Naruto. And where is Sakura-chan? She's still unconscious over there, said Sasuke as he pointed to an unconscious younger Sakura on the ground on the other side of the river. Naruto looked at Sasuke's face. How did we get here? How did we go back in time? Asked Naruto. Sasuke gave a chuckle. We didn't go back in time. This is the effect of the fourth chamber. The chamber of regressed memories. Designed to take whoever that enters within the chamber to the moment in their life that they wish they could redo over again the most, said Sasuke. I see. So that chamber has allowed me another chance to beat you and take you back to Konoha, said Naruto with his Kyuubi-influenced face. HMPH, one problem. You couldn't beat me then and you won't beat me now, said Sasuke with an evil smirk. I have one question. If I beat you, here, will that change the future? Would that mean that you would have gone back to Konoha? Asked Naruto. Sasuke looked at the Kyuubi level 1 Naruto. Yes. That is one thing about this chamber that makes it so special. The future will be changed and none of this will have ever happened. That is, if you can manage to beat me, said a cocky level 2 Sasuke getting into battle position. If that's the case, then I will definitely win this time around. Believe it, said Kyuubi Naruto level 1 getting into a battle stance of his own. Both staring each other down and getting ready to redo the determining fight to see if the future will be changed. The water is getting pretty high, any higher and we'll drown for sure, said Lee as the water in their chamber was so high that they were several feet off the ground. I have a plan, said Gaara as he and Lee rose higher from the water rising. Rock Lee looked at Gaara surprised and listened to what Gaara's plan was. In the other chamber, Kakashi tripped up the Guy clone then uppercutted him high into the air. Guy, we need to hurry up and get past this trap so we can help the others, said Kakashi. Guy kicked the Kakashi clone into the air then appeared behind him in the air, wrapped his arms around it, then pile-drived it into the ground then jumped from the area of impact. The impact caused smoke and dust to cover up the Kakashi clone but Guy still looked on hoping it was over. The smoke cleared and the Kakashi clone was broken into multiple pieces. Guy wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled. Hey Kakashi. I am done of this side, said Guy. Kakashi stood looking at the Guy clone recover and stand up slowly. Then I'll finish it on this side, too, said Kakashi as he performed hand seals. then placed his hands downward as lightning began to form. "Raikuri!" he shouted as he gathered the energy of lightning into his hand. "Here I go!" Kakashi, as quick as always, dashed toward the Guy clone and thrusted the Raikuri forward into the clone's chest. Kakashi then pulled his arm out of the clone as the clone fell to the ground. "Don't take it personally," said Kakashi in a smooth way to the now dead-looking clone. Suddenly, the wall that separated the two rival friends broke into pieces and the dead clones dissolved into smoke. "Well, that's that. Let's get out of here and find the others before something bad happens," said Guy as he and Kakashi rushed out of the chamber doors. In the other chamber, Kiba smirked as he formed a hand seal. "Ready, Akamaru, Ino, Shikamaru. Let me and Akamaru handle this scum," yelled Kiba. Akamaru barked in agreeance. Suddenly, Kiba began to twirl in a circle, as did Akamaru. "Gatsuga!" yelled Kiba as they spun as if they were miniature tornadoes of claws and soared toward Kabuto. Thinking fast, Kabuto quickly flipped out of the way of the two spinning cannon companions, then formed the chakra scalpels. Kiba and Akamaru redirected their Gatsuga attack and went again toward the medical nin. Sensing them coming once again, Kabuto ran toward the two spinning tornadoes and jumped at them. With that action, Kabuto was cut and struck with the Gatsuga, slightly dodging the more fatal injuries of the assault. Feeling the attack hit, Akamaru and Kiba both stopped their spinning assault and landed back over next to Ino and Shikamaru as Kabuto fell face first to the ground. "Haha, we did it, Akamaru," yelled Kiba as he looked at Akamaru. "That'll show." Kiba's gloating came to an end abruptly when he began to feel sharp pains in his right arm and his right leg. "Wah! What the?" Kiba looked over at Akamaru, who was struggling to stand as he was struck by the scalpel in his front right leg and back legs. Suddenly, Kiba fell to his knees from the pain of standing. Kabuto slowly rose to his feet and gave an evil smirk. "I cut your muscle fibers in your limbs with my chakra scalpel. You're as good as done," said Kabuto as he stood up straight once again, then reached into his pouch. Shikamaru analyzed. "I see. He sacrificed himself getting injured in order to get close enough to cut Kiba and Akamaru's muscle fibers. Without their legs and without Kiba's arm, it'll be hard for them to fight. They're fighting just to keep standing, let alone being able to fight," thought Shikamaru. "So it seems the one with the loudest mouth is the first to fall," said Kabuto, chuckling evilly at Kiba. "Damn you," said Kiba under his breath. "Rest, Kiba. Ino and I will take care of him." "Ready, Ino?" asked Shikamaru as he looked at Ino. Ino returned the look and smirked. "Yeah. Ready when you are," said Ino. "Two down. Two to go," said Kabuto in a foreshadowing way. In the other chamber, Naruto and Sasuke stood staring each other down. "Sasuke, if this chamber will change the future, then you will definitely lose this time," said Naruto in his chakra tail level 1 Kyuubi mode. "We'll see about that," said the curse seal level 2 Sasuke. Starting the fight off, Naruto dashed at Sasuke and thrusted his fist at him in a fierce motion. Sasuke quickly caught the punch and retaliated by throwing a kick at Naruto. Naruto quickly dodged off to the side and flipped his chakra tail around his body and managed to slap Sasuke in the side, sending Sasuke flying back a couple of feet. Sasuke, flipping back to his feet, flew at top speed toward Naruto with his fist ready to strike him. Naruto dashed back at Sasuke with his fist ready as well. Their fists clashed and suddenly caused a burst of energy from the impact. From then on, they began to exchange blows, blocks and counters at an incredible speed. Shock waves emitted from the clashes with each punch and block. causing parts of the mountain to break and crumble into the waters below. Not bad, Naruto. You actually pose as a challenge this time, said Sasuke in a cocky sarcastic manner as they continued to fight at the speedy pace, blocking and dodging punches as well as throwing some of his own. Ha! You're definitely going to lose. I will take you back to Konoha, said Naruto as he dodged all the same and threw punches and kicks of his own. Hearing the explosions of their fists clash at such a high battle level, Sakura suddenly woke up and slowly got to her feet. Where am I? She asked herself. Once on her feet, she looked around the valley. What happened to Naruto? She asked herself. Just then, right on cue, a big clash sound filled the sky as if it was the sound of fireworks sounding, and Naruto and Sasuke quickly shot to the ground on opposite sides of the water. To Sakura's surprise, Naruto landed a couple feet away from the pink-haired kunoichi. Naruto. Sakura ran to Naruto and kneeled down and examined Naruto as his Kyuubi mode faded away and his chakra of Kyuubi faded. Sasuke slowly got to his feet on the other side of the waters and, as Naruto, was knocked out of his Curse Seal 2 mode and was back to normal. Naruto, are you alright? Asked Sakura, helping Naruto to his feet. Yeah, I think so, said Naruto, finally getting to his feet. Sasuke. Where did he go? Asked Naruto. Sakura's eyes widened. Sasuke-kun? He's here? HMPH. Looks like we're evenly matched, said Sasuke, rising to his feet. I will take you back, Sasuke, said Naruto. Sasuke smirked once more. You drop out. You can't even defend yourself against Itachi. How do you expect to take me back? You can't. It's hopeless. You're not good enough to even fulfill your dream as Hokage, teased Sasuke with a cocky smirk. Naruto's face turned from calm to angry quickly. Sass. Uke, growled Naruto, getting mad. The lines on his cheeks beginning to get thicker. Back at the chamber with Kabuto. Alright Ino. Let's go, shouted Shikamaru as he formed the Kage Nui hand seal. Right, yelled Ino as she threw 2 shuriken at Kabuto. HMPH, don't think that mere shuriken will work on me, said Kabuto, fixing his glasses, then dodged the shuriken easily. The shuriken landing in Kabuto's shadow on the ground. Now, you're next to fall, said Kabuto as he ran toward Ino with his fist extended to punch her. Even so, Ino did not move. Kabuto's fist reached closer and closer to Ino when suddenly, it stopped. What? How? Kabuto's fist stopped inches away from Ino's face. Kagemane shuriken trap success, said a smirking Shikamaru. The shuriken Ino threw at you were not meant to hit you, but to strike your shadow. As long as those shuriken is holding down your shadow, you cannot move. Kabuto struggled to move, but to no avail. He's right. I can't move, said Kabuto, trying to move. And now, the finishing blow. Shikamaru moved the shadow tendril he formed at the start and thrusted it toward Kabuto. You die, now. The shadow tendril stabbed Kabuto through the heart, leaving Kabuto to fall to the ground motionless and dead. You did it, said Kiba, holding himself using Akamaru a little. Suddenly, Kabuto's body began to decay at a rapid rate and formed a corpse. His body? What's going on? Asked Ino. It decayed too rapidly to be normal. Shikamaru kneeled down to the side of the body and studied it closely. This could only mean one thing. This body was not Kabuto's, analyzed Shikamaru. He must have used some sort of technique to make an already dead corpse fight as him. Kiba began to yell in frustration. So you mean to tell me we fought against a dead corpse acting as Kabuto? Why would they have us do that? It's pointless. No, It bought them some time, said Ino. Time for what? Asked Kiba. Shikamaru stood up from the dead corpse and walked over to the study area of the laboratory, for them to get to Naruto. Said Shikamaru reading through the pages, then gasped as he happened upon something major. This is bad. What? Asked Ino. Yeah, what's going on? Asked Kiba. They had all this planned. All of this from the beginning. We played right into their hands right when we decided to split up and go separate ways. Shikamaru began to think. Quick, who did Kakashi-sensei assign to go with Naruto? I think it was Sakura, answered Kiba. Damn. If my calculations are correct, they should already have Naruto right where they want him, said Shikamaru grimly. At Orochimaru's chamber, Orochimaru chuckled. It seems that those three figured out our plans, said Orochimaru to Kabuto standing beside him. Yes, but it doesn't matter, now. That corpse I set up accomplished its mission. It even managed to injure two of them, said Kabuto fixing his glasses. Orochimaru chuckled evilly once again. So, how's the progress with Naruto going? Asked Orochimaru. Kabuto smirked and walked up to a strange-looking tube connected to a supercomputer in the room that held an unconscious Naruto within it. He is doing well, said Kabuto as he looked at the computer statistics of Naruto's dream. Suddenly, Sakura, who was tied up on the ground in that chamber, began to awaken slowly. Huh? Where am I? Asked Sakura as she realized she was tied. So, you finally woke up from the effect of the chamber of regressed memories, said Kabuto. What? How did I get here? Answer me, shouted Sakura to Kabuto. I was at a valley-like place and now I am here. What's going on? Is this some kind of genjutsu? Shouted Sakura to Kabuto. Kabuto smirked. I guess it wouldn't hurt to tell you, said Kabuto. The moment you and Naruto-kun entered within the doors of that special chamber, you were engulfed into a blind light. Sakura's eyes trailed downward as she remembered the blinding light. That light was a genjutsu that makes the person who is caught within it to fall straight to sleep. You and Naruto-kun fell straight to sleep as expected once taken by the light. Afterwards, Sasuke-kun brought you two here where I tied you up using a special fiber numbing rope so you can't use your monstrous strength and placed Naruto-kun into the machine there. Anyways, when the person sleeps, they are made to relive the very moment in their past that they wish to change. Also, in that dream of their past, whatever they want to hear, see, or feel to be real, is made real in that dream. In Naruto-kun's case, Kabuto delayed his sentence and walked over to the machine that imprisoned the unconscious Naruto and pulled a printout sheet from the computer and read it. He is dreaming of the moment when he and Sasuke-kun fought at the Valley of the End. He has Sasuke-kun telling him in the dream that if he beats him, it'll change the future. As if Orochimaru-sama would let Sasuke-kun enter into a chamber that could actually do that, said Kabuto with a chuckle. Sakura's eyes filled with rage at the new revolution. What do you plan to accomplish with him? Asked Sakura with rage. I guess I can tell you this last bit of information. We had already figured that the genjutsu of that chamber would make Naruto-kun relive that exact moment he fought for Sasuke at the Valley of the End. Using this computer that has wires connected to his brainwave activities that work his dream, we can manipulate what happens in that dream. At the moment, the computer is having Sasuke in his dream insult him and his dream of becoming Hokage. This will eventually get him mad enough to release the Kyuubi chakra. If he released the Kyuubi forms and chakra in his sleep, it will be released in real time here outside of his dream. Once that happens, the computer will absorb all the released Kyuubi chakra. Then we will be able to use that for our master plan, said Kabuto. Well, I have important matters to attend to. See ya. said Kabuto in a cocky manner, then left Sakura in that room. Sakura became mad and suddenly sad as she looked on at Naruto in the computer tube pod with wires connecting to his forehead. Naruto. It's been about 15 minutes since the room began to flood. Gaara and Lee were high up due to them floating on the high water level. The water level is so high that their heads are almost touching the ceiling now. Gaara swam toward the wall, lifted his hands and motioned them into a fist, all the while tightly clinching it. Suddenly, the wall began to shake slightly. Just as I thought. These walls have grains of sand within them, said Gaara looking back to Lee. So you can break the wall? Asked Lee, nodding and staying afloat. No, the amount of sand grains at this height of the wall is not enough for me to use, said Gaara. The highest amount of sand in the wall is at the lower part, submerged in the water. So we have to dive underwater for your plan to work, right? Yes. I'll swim down first and loosen up the wall. Count to 10, then swim down. Then you can use your technique and bust a hole big enough for us to escape from this chamber, said Gaara, getting ready to dive underwater. But we do not know what is on the other side of these walls, said Lee, stopping Gaara. We don't have a choice, said Gaara in his calm tone as always, then took a deep breath and dived underwater. Lee looked on at Gaara swim underwater to a lower part of the wall. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Lee continued to count. Gaara reached the lower portion of the wall where the sand was most concentrated and placed his arm out toward it and formed a fist as if he were doing the desert coffin. He clenched his fist and suddenly the wall began to shake more loosely than it did at the top portion. In the hallway, Guy and Kakashi ran back to the middle of the four-way halls and looked at each pathway. Okay, which way did Naruto and Sakura go? Asked Guy, then suddenly noticed water on the ground coming from a pathway. Water? Where is the water coming from? From one of the chambers. Let's check it out, said Kakashi to Guy. Guy nodded and they both rushed down the hallway to the chamber door. Back in the chamber where Sai and Hinata are. Suddenly, big booming noises roared from what sounded like the next room. Sai quickly performed a jutsu that made his ink fly from a scroll in his hand to Hinata's snake. The snake, after being struck with the ink, instantly slithered off of Hinata and rushed at the tied-up Sai. Sai's eyes began to widen as he saw Hinata's snake as well as his own snake prepare to strike him. Moving quickly, Hinata quickly dashed over to the snakes, formed her chakra lasers from the palm of her hands and sliced off the heads of the two snakes right when their fangs were inches away from Sai's neck. The two snakes dropped to the ground motionless and headless. Sai wiped off the sweat from his forehead. That was close. Sorry about that. I didn't know you were going to do the plan then, said Hinata. That's the thing. I wasn't, said Sai, being helped up to his feet by the long-haired Hyuga. What happened? Asked Hinata. The big booming noise that suddenly just started. It made the snake begin to get uneasy and scared, and it looked as though it was going to attack at that very moment. I didn't mean not to let you know, but I had to hurry, explained Sai. What were those booms anyway? Asked Hinata, looking at the wall of which the noises are coming from. I don't know, but it sounds as if it's coming from a room on the other side of this wall, said Sai. In front of the locked chamber door, Kakashi and Guy pushed and shoved the door, but it wouldn't open. It's locked, said Kakashi. Guy pulled back his fist and punched the door hard, but to no avail. Quick, use your Reikiri to bust it down, said Guy to Kakashi. I can't. I used Reikiri too many times as it is. I am almost drained of my chakra, said Kakashi, trying to form it but could only manage to form some sparks of electricity. Then, let's try the other chamber doors. One of them has to lead to the others, suggested Guy. Right. Let's hurry, said Kakashi, back in the flooded chamber. 7, 8, 9, 10 inches, finished Lee. He then took a deep breath and dove underwater. Gaara continued to loosen up the old stone-like bricks and saw Lee swimming down. He quickly swam out of the way and nodded his head for Lee to do it. Lee crossed his arms in front of his face. Unlock. Suddenly, Lee's face and body turned a darkish red-brown and veins began to pop up and become visible. He swam over to the wall and pulled back his fist as far as he could, then swung it forward with great force. In Hinata and Sai's chamber. Suddenly, the wall that was emitting the boom noises suddenly busted open and water began to pour into the room. Sai and Hinata jumped back from the rushing water and, to their surprise, saw Lee and Gaara flush out from the water and landed on the ground. Lee landed on his face and Gaara landed on his back. The water was now at knee length and the rest of the water ran through the room of the chamber's already opened door, leaving the water to be only a foot high now. Gaara-san, Lee-san, said Hinata, seeing them. Lee powered down his gate mode and slowly rose to his knees, as did Gaara, both coughing up some water. We did it, said Lee, helping Gaara up. Gaara got to his feet. Yeah. Sai and Hinata walked over to Gaara and Lee. How did you guys get here? Asked Sai. We're on a mission to rescue you guys. Let's go. We have to find the others, said Gaara as he began to walk out the open door. Lee nodded. Right. Come on, guys. Hinata and Sai looked at each other and nodded as they followed both Gaara and Lee. As they ran throughout the hallway, Gaara, Sai, Hinata, and Lee managed to make it back to the chamber pathway of which they started out. Okay, now we just need to find Kakashi-sensei, said Lee. There he is, said Sai, pointed to Kakashi and Guy running up to them. They got him, said Guy, pointing out Hinata and Sai with Gaara and Lee. Good work, said Kakashi to the team of Chunins and the Case Cage. Now we have to find Naruto and the others. I think they went this way, said Kakashi, pointing to another pathway. Right. Let's go, said Guy, and they all ran down another pathway that lead to the open chamber doors where Shikamaru, Ino, Hiba and Akamaru were. In Naruto's dream, you're nothing but a dropout. You can never become Hokage, said Sasuke, taunting him and smirking. Naruto's anger suddenly transformed him to Chakra Tail Level 2 mode. In the chamber, Sakura looked on at the unconscious Level 2 Naruto's chakra being drained from his body. Come on, guys. We're almost there, shouted Kakashi to his team of Guy, Gaara, Lee, Sai and Hinata. Once at the chamber door, they entered and looked inside. Shikamaru, still reading the book of Orochimaru's plans, looked up and noticed Kakashi and the others just now entering the chamber. Kakashi-sensei, said Ino with a smile that they all were reunited. Kakashi-sensei, Guy-sensei, are we glad to see you? Said Kiba with the same smile as Ino. Shikamaru picked up the book from the laboratory desk and walked over to the group. You got Hinata and Sai. Great. That's one problem taken care of, said Shikamaru to Kakashi. Kakashi nodded. Gaara and Lee found them. We just caught up to them. Anyways, what's going on? Asked Kakashi. We got trapped into fighting what we thought was Kabuto, but it wasn't. It was some sort of body corpse double that looked and fought like him, said Ino. I see. So we weren't the only ones set in traps, said Guy. Matter of fact, I was wondering why Gaara and Lee were wet. So, did you find something out? Asked Lee, seeing Shikamaru reading the book. Yeah, Orochimaru's whole plan is written in this book. And it doesn't look good right now, said Shikamaru. Tell us everything you know, said Kakashi folding his arms. Shikamaru nodded and began to explain everything about Naruto's condition and Orochimaru's ultimate goal. Back in the room where Naruto and Sakura are. Naruto, said Sakura slowly as she looked at the unconscious Naruto and his body transforming with 4 tails now flooding the glass pod. Her eyes trailed off at the computer as the little buttons and knobs blinked and moved as it absorbed more of the Kyuubi's chakra. I gotta get him out of there, said Sakura to herself as she struggled to use her super strength but couldn't due to the rope's special features. She continued to resist the rope but to no avail. It's no use. I can't get out of this rope. She stopped her struggle and continued to look up at the furry Naruto. Floating in the glass tube filled with liquid and an oxygen mask strapped to his mouth so he could breathe along with little wires connected to his forehead so the computer could control the dream. Naruto! Wake up! She yelled out. It was no use. Naruto couldn't awaken. Soundproof. Sakura thought to herself as she lowered her head in giving up. Just when Sakura had given up all hope of getting loose of her muscle fiber numbing rope, she began to feel the ropes become loose and fall to the ground, leaving her free to move. Huh! I am free. But how? She asked herself, then looked down and saw what was the cause of her ropes being cut. Pakun! She exclaimed as she looked at the nin dog of Kakashi's. Pakun gave his normal look and motioned his paw at Sakura to symbolize that it was no trouble. Sakura picked up Pakun and smiled, holding him up so she could talk to him. How did you get here? She asked. Me and the rest of the nindogs have been traveling these chambers for quite some time now. It's like one big maze, said the talking dog. Oh, that is right. I remember Kakashi summoning you guys before the Valentine's Day festival, said Sakura, remembering. Yeah. Don't worry about Sai and Hinata. Kakashi and the rest caught up with them. I smell their scents together, said Pakun. That's great. Now we can get out of here, shouted Sakura, smiling, then looked at Naruto floating in the pod. But first, Sakura stopped her statement to put Pakun on the ground. I gotta get Naruto out of there. How do you plan on doing that? Asked Pakun. Sakura clenched her fist and smirked with determination. I am going to bust him out, she said, walking up to Naruto's pod, but suddenly stopped when 2 people instantly appeared in front of her, cutting off her path to Naruto and the computer. Sakura's eyes widened with hate from who she saw appear. Orochimaru, she said under her breath as she completely ignored Kabuto standing next to him. Pakun stood there aside of Sakura, looking at the Sannin and medical nin. HMPH. You really think I would leave you here with Naruto-kun? Said Orochimaru, smirking evilly. Sakura began to worry about her chances of rescuing Naruto now. But nonetheless, she stood her ground. Pakun looked up at the pink-haired Kunoichi. Sakura. It's not looking too good for us, he said as he then began to look around the room to find an exit. And to his surprise, found an open door right behind them. Yo! Sakura! Let's make a run for it. There's a door behind us. Orochimaru and Kabuto began to chuckle evilly, hearing the dogs whisper. Sakura looked behind her at the exit, then back to Orochimaru and Kabuto. No, I'm not going to run anymore, said Sakura, remembering the times when she let Naruto and Sasuke down in missions when they were a genin team. But, Sakura, Pakun stammered, then stopped as he shook his head negatively from side to side. Kabuto smirked and fixed his glasses upon his face, then leaned over to say something in Orochimaru's ear. Orochimaru-sama. We should really be going now. The computer has a little over 82% of the Kyuubi power we need. That is more than enough to execute the plan with. Yes, we should be getting ready to go to the outside. But first, I want to kill off this one, said Orochimaru as he began to walk up to Sakura. Sakura began to get nervous seeing the powerful snake Sannin approach her in an evil way. Suddenly, he opened his mouth wide and out came his kusanagi. With the powerful sword sticking out of his mouth, Orochimaru thrusted his head toward Sakura's chest, aiming for her heart. Sakura became frozen in fear seeing the sword come at her with killing intent. The sword drew closer and closer. Sakura, believing it to be her end, just closed her eyes and waited for death when suddenly, clink, a clash of metal of the same caliber blocked Orochimaru's path to Sakura's heart. Sakura, scared to open her eyes and come back to reality, slowly opened her eyes and was shocked at what she saw. Sasuke-kun! She yelled happily seeing Sasuke block off Orochimaru's sword with his own. Sasuke, what do you think you're doing? Asked Orochimaru as she swallowed the sword back into himself. Sasuke placed his sword back into his sheath and stood motionless. I will take care of things here. Go and do your master plan at Konoha. Sakura's happiness was instantly shot down from hearing what Sasuke said. Sasuke-kun? Orochimaru smirked. I see. Always wanting to fight and kill. I guess it can't be helped. Come on Kabuto. Konoha is waiting for our plans to take action, said Orochimaru. Kabuto smirked and they both instantly disappeared out of there. Sasuke suddenly looked up at Sakura and took out his sword once more then motioned it in the air as if he were going to attack Sakura. Sakura became sad looking as she knew Sasuke was about to finish the job that Orochimaru started and looked down. Sasuke-kun. Why? She asked slowly. Sasuke looked on at Sakura then smirked in a smooth, non-caring way. Sasuke-kun. I want you to know. Before you kill me. I just want you to know that. But before Sakura could finish, Sasuke swung his sword, causing Sakura to flinch slightly. This is the end, she thought to herself as she waited for the sword to slice her throat. Suddenly, to her surprise, the sword missed Sakura by inches and suddenly, Sasuke threw his sword at the glass container that was holding Naruto, making it shatter and break and causing the unconscious level 4 furry fox Naruto to fall out of it and land motionless on the floor with the Kyuubi tails fading away and taking Naruto back to his normal state. Surprised at this, Sakura looked on as Sasuke walked over to Naruto and leaned down to pick him up on his back. Sasuke-kun? Sasuke sheathed his sword once more with the unconscious Kyuubi boy on his back and walked over to Pakun and Sakura. Sakura, let's get out of here. Confused by Sasuke's actions, Sakura nodded and followed Sasuke into the corridors of Orochimaru's hideout to find an exit back to Konoha. As they followed Sasuke, Sakura and Pakun walked faster and reached the side of him. As she walked, she looked at the side of his face and wondered what was going on. Sasuke, sensing she was looking at him, turned to look at her. What? He asked as he carried the unconscious Naruto on his back. Nothing, it's just that. Why are you helping us all of a sudden? Finished Pakun. Sasuke turned his head back forward. I have my reasons, he said his normal way. Sakura could sense something different about him. He was back to normal. He was no longer the new evil Sasuke. He was back to his old Konoha Sasuke self. I wonder what would make him change his mind and leave Orochimaru, thought Sakura but didn't even care the reason. Just so long as Sasuke is back. What about Kakashi-sensei and the others? We can't leave them, said Pakun to Sasuke. It's already taken care of, said Sasuke, outside of the haunted house. Are you sure we can trust him? Asked Shikamaru to Kakashi. Yeah. said Kakashi, looking up into the sky as he began to remember what happened and how they got out of there. Kakashi's memory flashback of what happened past 10 minutes ago. Shikamaru finished explaining the plans of Orochimaru in the book he read to Kakashi and the rest. So they already have Naruto, said Kakashi, thinking. Most likely, answered Shikamaru. Then there's no time to lose. Let's get moving, said Guy. Suddenly, a person instantly appeared in the chamber with them. You guys have to get back to Konoha. Orochimaru's plan is complete and his plan is set to destroy Konoha, said the person behind them. Everyone suddenly turned around and, to their surprise, it was Sasuke. Sasuke, thought Lee. Sasuke-kun, thought Ino. Sasuke Uchiha, thought Gaara. HMPH. He thinks he's so cool now, said a smirking Kiba on Akamaru's back. And why is that? Asked Shikamaru to Sasuke's statement. Sasuke stood without answer with a different facial look than his usual one that looked somewhat sincere. Kakashi stood looking at Sasuke closely, as if he was searching his feelings. Answer the question, Sasuke, or we will be forced to attack, threatened Shikamaru. Let's go, guys. We have to get back to Konoha, said Kakashi, still looking at Sasuke. What? But, we can't trust him, said Kiba as the others remained silent. Alright, Sasuke. We'll go back to Konoha and prepare. I need you to find Naruto and Sakura, said Kakashi to Sasuke. Sasuke gave a slight nod and disappeared out of the chamber. End flashback back at Konoha, on top of a tall building. Orochimaru, now with enough power to perform his jutsu, made Kabuto form the sacred hand seals as he motioned the absorbed Kyuubi chakra into the hand seals. It's complete, said Orochimaru as suddenly, the dead began to slowly rise up out of the ground. In the Mist Village, Haku and Zabuza rose out of their graves. The 3 Hokage tombs began to rise out of the ground and opened to reveal the first, second and fourth Hokage. Asuma rose out of his grave. All the other dead powerful ninjas began to rise as well and gathered around the building Orochimaru was on. Orochimaru looked down at this huge army of the undead ninjas and smirked as they were already under his control and didn't need the special kunai for this resurrection jutsu. It's time, my slaves. It's finally time to take down Konoha. Orochimaru looked down at this evil army of undead ninjas and smirked. Alright, my undead army, begin tearing down Konoha. After hearing the command of their master, the undead army began to scatter throughout Konoha, all the while terrorizing and attacking the villagers. Kakashi, Guy and the others raced from the theme park and hurried back to the village at top speed. Look up ahead, said Lee as they ran through the forest to get to the opening gates of Konoha. Everyone looked to where Lee was pointing and saw something horrible. In the distance, fire, smoke, destruction and people yelling and running in fear can be seen and hear past the Konoha gates. Let's hurry. Orochimaru has already started attacking, said Guy to his team. Inside the Orochimaru's lair, Sasuke, carrying Naruto, led Sakura and Pakun through the maze of the lair and finally made it out of the doors. Good. We're finally out of there, said Pakun. Yeah, but we have to get back to Konoha, said Sakura to Pakun, then looked at Sasuke. Sasuke looked back at Sakura and nodded in approval. Let's go. And with that, Sasuke and the others started their way from the lair of Orochimaru toward Konoha. Now reaching the front gates of Konoha, Kakashi and the others ran in and looked around at the terror that was befalling Konoha and its people. Orochimaru smirked as he looked down to see the team come through the gates. So you're finally here, said Orochimaru with a smirk. Konoha's last line of defense. I will enjoy this. He then motioned his hand at the undead Haku and Zabuza to come and fight. Haku and Zabuza obeyed and walked over to Kakashi and Guy's team and readied themselves. I'll handle Haku, said Kakashi, then lifted up his forehead protector to reveal his Sharingan. No, Kakashi. I will be your opponent, said Zabuza. Kakashi was surprised to see that Zabuza could speak even though he was dead. Zabuza? He said, thinking that Zabuza wasn't under Orochimaru's control. Orochimaru gave a chuckle. Oh, I forgot to mention. These undead ninjas of mine are able to still talk even though they're dead. He then began to laugh evilly, which filled the air and intensified the air of doom. Guy, listen up, said Kakashi over to Guy. I'll take Haku. With his jutsus, he is more of a threat than Zabuza. So, you? Kakashi's statement was interrupted as a voice began to talk over him. I'll handle him, said Neji as he appeared in front of Kakashi and Guy. Neji Hyuga, said Kakashi, getting his attention. All right, but be careful. I'll assist him in fighting him, said Lee, stepping beside Neji and smiled with a thumbs up to Kakashi and Guy. Right. You go on and show this kid the power of youth, said Guy as he returned Lee's thumbs up with one of his own. Haku suddenly stepped up and began to form hand seals. You are no match for me, said Haku with an emotionless face. HMPH, we'll see about that, said Neji as he and Lee prepared in their own stances. Just then, Haku stomped his feet on the ground and sharp ice cycles shot up from the ground and pointed at Neji and Lee. How did he make ice without water? Asked Lee. Neji activated his Byakugan. He's using the water from underground. Haku quickly, without hesitation, motioned his hand, making the sharp ice cycles shoot quickly at Lee and Neji. Moving skillfully as always, Lee and Neji began to dodge and destroy the hundreds of ice cycles coming at them. Kakashi looked over back to Zabuza, who had disappeared suddenly. Where did he go? Thought Kakashi. Suddenly, Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi and prepared to slash at him with his sword. Guy, being quick as always, rushed over and jumped in the air at Zabuza. Dynamic entry, yelled Guy as he kicked Zabuza away from Kakashi. Guy, you handle Zabuza. I'll handle Orochimaru, said Kakashi. No, came a low monotoned voice. I'll handle him, said Gaara, walking up beside Kakashi. Guy is going to need your help. I'll handle him. Kakashi looked over at the cage, sighed, and nodded. All right, Gaara. Be careful. Ah, I'll help him out, said Shikamaru with his bored look and a slight smirk. He's going to need it to take him down. Orochimaru gave a chuckle. Let's see what you two got, said Orochimaru as he suddenly began to melt into the ground using the Leech All Creation technique. Shikamaru and Gaara both stood ready for Orochimaru's first attack. Suddenly, the ground began to crack and two snakes emerged and flew toward Gaara and Shikamaru. Shikamaru jumped out of the way and Gaara created his Shikaku no Tate, ultimate defense, in front of him. Not minding this at all, the giant snake opened its mouth widely and swallowed the ultimate defense statue in front of Gaara. Gaara stood unshaken with his arms folded and his calm face as he watched his ultimate defense sand object be swallowed. Once it was done eating the sand defense, it suddenly flew toward Gaara once more. Shikamaru landed and looked over at Gaara standing there with the snake about to eat him. Gaara, hurry! Move out of the way, yelled Shikamaru. Nonetheless, Gaara stood with his arms folded looking up at the snake feet away from himself. The snake's fangs came closer and closer to Gaara, but he stood motionless without fear. The snake opened its mouth wide and prepared to eat Gaara, but suddenly stopped 2 feet away from Gaara. The stomach of the snake began to increase and suddenly exploded, blowing the snake up in 2 pieces. I get it now, thought Shikamaru with a smirk. Very smooth Gaara. He wanted the snake to eat his ultimate defense Shikaku statue. He placed a bomb inside of it when he formed it. As rain of the snake's guts fell to the ground, Gaara looked over at Orochimaru, who had just resurfaced. Is that the best you can do? He said in his normal way. Orochimaru chuckled evilly. Very good. I expected nothing less from the case cage. Shikamaru continued to dodge his snake, then stopped in front of it and formed his hand seal, Cage Nui. He said as he formed a big sharp shadow tendril and pierced the head of the snake, killing it. That's done, he said, placing his hands to his side out of the shadow hand seal and walked over next to Gaara. Meanwhile, Sai, Hinata, Kiba, and Ino went to help the villagers, Anbu members and their other ninja teammates with the other undead ninjas. Back at Kakashi and Guy's fight against the undead Zabuza. Kakashi and Guy ducked and dodged the wide swings of Zabuza's huge sword strikes. Kakashi, we can't spend much time on him. The people need out help, said Guy, ducking the sword strike. I know. Reinforcements are on their way. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura. They should be reaching the Valley of the End by now. Hearing this, Orochimaru began to think if Sasuke had turned on him. He didn't kill her. I see. He has decided to leave the sound. Well, I will have to put a stop to that. Using the strongest undead ninja I have, thought Orochimaru as he motioned his arm to an undead ninja to symbolize what to do and where to go. Seeing this, the undead ninja nodded his head and suddenly disappeared out of sight. This isn't good, said Kakashi as he saw who Orochimaru sent away and guessed on where he sent him. Guy looked at Kakashi with a puzzled look. You don't think he sent him after Naruto and Sasuke? If so, they may have no chance of winning, thought Kakashi. At the Valley of the End, Sasuke, Sakura, Naruto and Pakun had just arrived. We have to cross through here, said Sasuke. Okay. Let's go, said Sakura as they walked down the walls of the cavern and reached the bottom to where the water separated the land. Pakun dipped his paw into the water and shivered. This water is ice cold. He then looked at Sasuke. Put Naruto down and carry me over to the other side first, he said in a joking way. You're a dog. Dog, paddle over, said Sasuke. It's too cold. I'll freeze before I even get to the other side. So carry me, said Pakun again in a joking way. Sasuke sighed and placed Naruto on the ground, then picked up the ninja dog. You're a bossy little dog, said Sasuke, annoyed as he carried Pakun over to the other side. Why didn't you just ask Sakura to carry you? Pakun looked at Sasuke. She's been jealous at me because we use the same shampoo. Yet, my hair is glossier than hers. I heard that, you dumb dog, said Sakura in a goofy rage. See what I mean? Knowing her, she probably would have dropped me to get my fur wet and smelly, said Pakun. Upon reaching the other side, Sasuke placed Pakun down and Sakura walked over with Naruto on her back. Sasuke nodded. All right. Now we can. Suddenly, he stopped what he was saying and began to look around as if someone was there. Sasuke-kun. What's wrong? Asked Sakura. Pakun began to sniff the air. Someone's here. Who? Asked Sakura. I don't know. I can't recognize this scent. But it smells old. Real old. How old are we talking? Asked Sakura. Like, dead old, said Pakun. Suddenly, a foot forcibly kicked Sasuke in the cheek, sending him flying into the water. Sasuke, recovering, climbed onto the water and stood looking at what kicked him as the person appeared standing on the water in front of Sasuke. looking at him. I knew it, said Sasuke, spitting a wad of blood out of his mouth from the kick. Sakura and Pakun, still standing on the ground part of the valley, walked from Naruto to get a better look at the person. I know him. That's Kakashi's old sensei, the fourth Hokage. The Yondaime, said Pakun in shock. The Yondaime, said Sakura slowly as she recalled Tsunade telling her about him. Sasuke stood facing the Yondaime on the water. This has just gotten more troublesome, thought Sasuke facing the Yondaime. Suddenly, the Yondaime disappeared, leaving only yellow electricity from where he was, and appeared behind Sasuke. Sensing this, Sasuke quickly activated his Sharingan and ducked out of the Yondaime's punch, but was kicked as a recover attack, sending Sasuke flying once again. He's fast, said Sakura to Pakun. That's his special trait. He can go so fast that he can appear and disappear in an instant. But he needs the use of a special tag that he usually places on a kunai. But he is going at that speed without the tag. So how? Sakura stopped her statement as she looked closely at Sasuke's back. Sasuke-kun. He placed the tag on your back. Hurry and take it off, shouted Sakura as the Yondaime took out a kunai and disappeared from sight. Sasuke quickly took of the tag, but it was too late. The Yondaime had instantly appeared behind him, ready to stab at the location of his heart. The time seemed like to be moving in slow motion. The kunai began to get closer and closer to Sasuke when suddenly a foot kicked the Yondaime away from Sasuke, sending the fourth Hokage into the water some feet away from them. The Yondaime recovered from the kick and stood once again on the water and looked at who kicked him. Sasuke turned around and saw also who saved his life. He, looks like you could use a hand, Sasuke, said the yellow-headed ninja. Sasuke smirked. You loser. Do you always have to be so dramatic? Said Sasuke, smirking. Naruto gave a smirk and chuckled. Surprised to see this, Sakura and Pakun quickly turned around to where Naruto was laying on the ground and finally noticed that he wasn't there anymore. Sakura smiled, turning back to the fight. Naruto, he's awake. Pakun smirked. That Naruto. Always coming at the last minute. Thankfully he was on time though. Another second and Sasuke would have died. Naruto smirked and looked at the Yondaime. Wow. He sorta looks like me after all, said Naruto looking. Anyways, that doesn't matter. Come on, Sasuke. Let's take this guy down, shouted Naruto, excited to be fighting alongside his best friend. Sasuke smirked. All right. Let's do it. And with that, the face-off was ready to begin. Naruto and Sasuke stood ready to fight the famous and powerful Yondaime. Naruto and Sasuke stood on the settled water of the Valley of the End looking on at the undead fourth Hokage. Sakura and Pakun stood on the jagged rocks on the sidelines watching the grand face-off. So Sasuke, what's the plan? Asked Naruto, still looking at the Yondaime. There is no plan, said Sasuke, never taking his eyes off of the Yondaime, but this guy is good. He is really fast. And if he gets one of these special tags on you, he is even faster, said Sasuke as he crumbled up the tag from his back and threw it in the water. The Yondaime. Ero Sennin told me about him. The fourth Hokage. Then it finally hit Naruto. Wait. I thought he was dead? He looked back at Sasuke with the eyes closed, fox confusion face he always did when he was confused. While you were sleeping, they took some energy from the Kyuubi and revived him along with about 100 more dead ninjas. Kakashi and the others have already gone to protect Konoha, said Sasuke, placing a hand on his Kusanagi sword on his back. I see, said Naruto, facing the fourth again. Well, if the others need us, Then we can't stay around here for too long," said Naruto, clenching a fist, then ran at the fourth with full speed. Sasuke stood where he was and waited to see what Naruto would do. Once Naruto got into range of the fourth, he swung a right hook. The fourth easily dodged. "Damn it," said Naruto as he kept his punching barrage going. The fourth dodging every punch easily. Naruto stopped his punching barrage and jumped up, then swung his foot to kick the fourth, but to no avail. The Yondaime caught his kick and began to spin him around. Once at top speed, the fourth let go of Naruto's leg, which sent him high into the air in a diagonal. In a flash, the Yondaime quickly took out another tag and threw it at Naruto, landing on his back. Suddenly, the fourth instantly disappeared and reappeared above Naruto, still in the air from the swinging, and punched Naruto downward in a double fist thrust, sending Naruto fast downward into the waters below and making a big splash. The Yondaime landed on his feet on the surface of the water and remained silent. Naruto climbed onto the surface of the water and managed to stand up. "This guy is no pushover," said Naruto, standing up. "But neither am I," shouted Naruto as suddenly, a clone popped out of the water from behind the Yondaime with a Rasengan in hand. "Rasengan!" shouted the clone as it pushed it forward at the Yondaime. Acting quickly, the Yondaime instantly placed his arm to the side and formed a Rasengan of his own. "Rasengan!" shouted the Yondaime. Naruto, a little surprised to see him form the Rasengan, thrusted his forward, as did the Yondaime. The Rasengans clashed together, making a giant windy shockwave occur in the waters. Sasuke placed his arms over his face to shield from the wind. "Did he get him?" asked Sasuke, attempting to look through the smoke of the collision. "You did it, Naruto," shouted Sakura on the side with Pakun. The smoke cleared, revealing Naruto soaring in the air, spiraling from being hit with the Yondaime's Rasengan. Naruto landed in the water and made a splash once again. Naruto's attack was neutralized by his, and he was even able to sustain his attack long enough to attack Naruto. "This guy," thought Sasuke. The Yondaime looked over at Sasuke and Sasuke grabbed his sword once again. Just then, Naruto resurfaced and stood up from the water. "That hurt a lot," said Naruto, recovering from the Rasengan. "Geez. My surprise attack couldn't even faze him. I am going to have to use that jutsu," said Naruto as he stood up. "Naruto, surely you can do a lot better than that," said the Yondaime. Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura and Pakun all began shocked to hear the Yondaime's voice as well as him talk to Naruto. "Wah! What?" stammered Naruto. "You don't even know me, so don't even think that you know." "I know a great deal about you, Naruto Uzumaki," interrupted the fourth. Naruto's eyes grew bigger. How do you?" The Yondaime gave a slight chuckle. "I'll only tell you if you can beat me," teased the Yondaime. Naruto began to feel weird, as if he was fighting more of a friend than an enemy. "Fine, then I'll just have to beat you then." The Yondaime smirked. "You may need the Uchiha kid to help you out as well. At both of you guys' level, it won't be easy to take me on," teased the past Hokage. Naruto smirked and got to his feet, now getting his second wind. "No thank you. I can take you all myself," said Naruto, smiling. "Who said I would let you? You can hog all the fun," said Sasuke, walking up to Naruto's side. "This guy is far more powerful than anyone I've ever faced. He may be even stronger than my brother. By taking him on, I can see how I would match up with Itachi," said Sasuke, smirking. "You had your chance, Sasuke, you lost. Now it's my turn," said Naruto, folding his arms. "You lost too, or did you forget what beating you took on 10 seconds ago?" said Sasuke, recalling Naruto getting punched into the water and getting blasted by the Rasengan. HMPH. You just want to show off. As usual, said Naruto, facing Sasuke with his "I am being annoyed by you" look. You'll just get in my way. As usual, said Sasuke, facing Naruto with the same annoyed look. Why don't you just go over there with Sakura and Pakun, Sasuke-chan, and let me handle this fight? Why don't you go over there with Sakura and the dog and let the real man fight, said Sasuke. How about after I'm done kicking his ass, I am going to kick your ass, said Naruto in the goofy annoyed emotion. Correction. After he's done kicking your ass, I'll kick his ass then kick your ass again, said Sasuke in the same emotion. Oh yeah, let's see you try it, Sasuke, said Naruto, clenching his fist. Bring it on, idiot, said Sasuke. You think you're so cool, don't ya? Said Naruto. You're an I swore, said Sasuke. An anime sweat drop appeared on the Yandaime's head as he watched the two friends have their goofy rage argument. You two argue like an old married couple, said the Yandaime with a chuckle. Naruto and Sasuke stopped their argument and faced the fourth. Okay, let's work together, said Naruto in position. Fine, said Sasuke as he got into position as well. Let's see what you two can do, said the Yandaime as he readied himself. Let's show him our true strength, said Naruto with a clenched fist. Right. Ready when you are, said Sasuke, nodding. Suddenly, Naruto and Sasuke dashed toward the Yandaime and threw punches and kicks toward him. The Yandaime smirked and blocked and dodged the onslaught of punches from Sasuke and Naruto easily. You guys need to work together if you plan on beating me, said the Yandaime as he held the last punch of Naruto and the last kick of Sasuke, then roundhouse kicked Naruto back and uppercutted Sasuke upward in the opposite direction. Naruto flipped to his feet and landed on the water. Sasuke twirled in the air and managed to land on his feet also. HMPH. You want teamwork? You got it, shouted Naruto as he formed a hand seal. He then looked over at Sasuke, in which Sasuke nodded to what Naruto was planning on. Do you two even know what teamwork means? Asked the fourth in a goofy way. You'll see. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto suddenly formed 3 clones that appeared around the 4th Hokage. Naruto suddenly dashed at the Hokage, jumped, then punched him in the face. You, said Naruto as the Hokage flew back some from the punch. Sasuke, seeing this, ran up and jumped up on that Naruto's back and flipped up into the air. Ma. Ki. The 3 clones all slid under the 4th and kicked him high into the air. The Yandaime flew into the air slightly holding his stomach where the clones had kicked him, then looked up. Sasuke, coming down from flipping up, punched the Yandaime once then twice, then swung his leg down forcibly, knocking the Yandaime downward with great force into the water below. Shishi Renden, yelled Sasuke as he knocked the 4th downward, crashing and making a big wave from the impact. Sasuke landed opposite of Naruto. The Uzumaki Shishi Renden combination technique, said Sasuke and Naruto with a smirk, thinking that their newfound combo collaboration technique was enough to beat him. Suddenly, all of Naruto's clones began to scream as if they were being attacked and poofed. Huh? What happened? Asked Naruto. Just then, the 4th Hokage instantly appeared in the smoke of the dispersed clones with the sparks of a couple yellow lightning flashes around him for a couple seconds. I see. He placed tags on each of the clones as they kicked him, analyzed Sasuke. Usually, when lightning flashes around him like that, it's because he just used that speed technique of his. A combination of 2 taijutsus. Not bad, but not good enough. said the Yondaime walking toward both Naruto and Sasuke. Looks like I have to use the Chidori, said Sasuke as he formed Handseal then formed the lightning attack. Naruto placed out his hand once more and formed another Rasengan. The Yondaime smirked some more as he walked toward Naruto and Sasuke. The Chidori. Kakashi must have taught you that. The Rasengan. Jiraiya-sensei taught you. Ready Naruto. Ready. Suddenly, Sasuke and Naruto charged at the fourth Hokage. Once in range, they thrusted their respective attacks at him. Rasengan, shouted Naruto. Chidori, shouted Sasuke. The two attacks caused a giant shockwave of water to rage once the attacks made contact. Sakura shielded her face from the wind and tried to look forward to see if they got him. The Yondaime smirked as he caught the wrist of both Naruto and Sasuke. Nice try guys. But just then, the Yondaime threw both Naruto and Sasuke by the wrist and sent them crashing into the water behind him. Not good enough. Both Naruto and Sasuke resurfaced and got to their knees on top of the water tired and a little out of breath. So that's where Kakashi learned to grab our wrist whenever we charged him with the Chidori and Rasengan, said Sasuke, remembering Kakashi doing the same thing when they attempted to hit him with the Rasengan and Chidori and when they were on top of the hospital. I remember when Kakashi tried to use the Chidori on me for the first time in a training session back when he was about your age, said the fourth with a smirk. I did the same thing to him. This guy is just toying with us, said Sasuke, getting angry. Yeah, he didn't even break a sweat, said Naruto, smirking. Looks like I'll have to use that attack, said Naruto, getting to his feet. But I'm going to need some time to prepare it, said Naruto, looking on at the fourth. How much time? Asked Sasuke. I am not sure, said Naruto. You idiot. How do you expect to get time? I'm going to need you to hold him off while I prepare it, said Naruto. Sasuke growled lowly, then looked at the smirking Yondaime. All right, just hurry up, said Sasuke. Naruto nodded and formed a handseal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, said Naruto as two clones formed next to him. Naruto placed out his hand and one clone formed the Rasengan, the other merging it with wind manipulation. Something the Yondaime couldn't do. The Yondaime looked at Naruto and became shocked at what he was seeing. Duh. That's the... He's putting wind manipulation into the Rasengan. I am taking this Rasengan to the next level. Something not even you could do, said Naruto as the clones began to work on transforming the Rasengan to its true form. The Yondaime smirked. Interesting. So he was able to surpass me in developing the Rasengan to its true form. I am curious to see how it turns out, thought the fourth. But I can sense that he is running slightly low on chakra and his body is weary. Will he be able to? Hurry, Naruto, I'll keep him away as best as I can, said Sasuke as he charged the fourth. The Yondaime looked on at Sasuke charge him, then ran toward Sasuke, throwing a punch. Sasuke quickly dodged and jumped off to the side, then sweep kicked at the Yondaime, in which it tripped him up. He then placed his hand on the water and flipped up and kicked at Sasuke's head, in which Sasuke put up his arm and blocked. The Yondaime then flipped behind Sasuke and bear hugged him. Suddenly, Sasuke made the Chidori lightning shoot from his body, shocking the Yondaime and releasing the bear hug. Sasuke flipped back some distance and fell to one knee out of breath. He's making me use up my chakra at a fast rate. I was able to break free from him using the Chidori current, but I don't know how long I can keep this up. Naruto's Rasengan began to fade in his hand. Damn it. I'm too tired to form it. And I'm about out of chakra. What am I going to do now? Thought Naruto. Naruto struggled with his Rasengan but couldn't sustain it and it finally dissolved. Sasuke looked behind himself to see the progress Naruto was making and saw that he wasn't making any. "What are you doing? I can't hold him off forever," yelled Sasuke to Naruto. "I don't know, it won't form," said a tired, out-of-breath Naruto with his two clones. "What's going on? Naruto can't form the Rasengan," said Pakun. "He has been through a lot today. He's worn out. Any normal person would be out cold by now, but somehow Naruto is still able to fight. After all he's been through today. Also, he's using his chakra to stay afloat on the water. He's struggling just to stay conscious," said Sakura worried. "What are we going to do, Sakura?" asked Pakun. Sakura began to put her black gloves on. "I won't just be a hindrance. I'll do my best and help," said Sakura. But Sakura, Naruto and Sasuke together couldn't even beat him. "If you go out there." "I know, but I have to at least try," interrupted Sakura as she then ran out into the water battlefield. Naruto stood out of breath and tired, still trying to form the Kazengan. "Damn it," he said as he fell to his knee out of breath. "Naruto, how much longer are you going to need?" asked Sasuke, then looked behind himself and noticed Naruto about to pass out. "Naruto!" shouted Sasuke when suddenly the Yondaime appeared in front of him and shoved a Rasengan into Sasuke's stomach, sending him flying into the side of the cavern rocks. The impact of Sasuke flying into the mountains caused a rock slide, burrowing him under rocks. "Never take your eyes off the opponent," said the Yondaime as he then turned his attention to the tired Naruto dropping to his knee and hands on the water, breathing hard with one eye closed and sweat dripping steadily. "Looks like it's the end of the line. That's too bad. I was looking forward to seeing the finished form of the Rasengan," said the evil Yondaime as he walked closer and closer to Naruto. Once in range, the Yondaime pulled out a kunai and pulled it back to stab Naruto when suddenly a fist swung at him, causing him to jump out of the way and away from Naruto. Sakura recovered from her missed punch and stood in front of Naruto ready to protect him. "Interesting. Looks like Naruto has made some great friends," thought the Yondaime secretly as if he weren't evil. "I'll fight you with my power and protect my friends with my own two hands," said Sakura determined. The Yondaime smirked. "Good, let's see what you got." Naruto managed to lift his head up and saw that Sakura was about to take on the Yondaime and saw where Sasuke was knocked to in a pile of rocks. Sakura-chan," said Naruto, struggling to maintain his hold on consciousness. Sakura stood ready upon the now stilled water facing the fourth Hokage. She clenched her fist as he stood looking at her with an unconcerned face. Sakura's brow twitched slightly from the intimidation of facing against a legend. Pakun stood looking on from the rocks on the side. "Sakura, will she be able to do this?" Pakun said, then looked over to Naruto, then at Sasuke in the rocks unconscious. "Come on. Wake up, guys. Sakura needs you," he sweated in worry. "Come," said the fourth as he moved his finger back and forth to indicate for her to charge him. Sakura, thinking first of her times of being a hindrance to Naruto and Sakura, charged the fourth at top speed and pulled back her fist. Naruto, struggling hard to muster up some chakra, rose his head out of breath and looked on as Sakura charged the fourth. "No. Sakura-chan." He placed a hand down on the water and began to try and push himself up to his feet, but to no avail. Once in range, Sakura pulled back her fist and swung it at the fourth, in which he dodged. The fourth, flipping into the air above Sakura, kicked at her head, in which she ducked close to the water to avoid. After the missed kick, the fourth landed back to back with Sakura. Thinking fast, Sakura turned around and threw a right punch to the fourth, in which he dodged once again by jumping above Sakura. While in the air, The fourth threw a special tag at Sakura's back in which she activated her chakra scalpel quickly and sliced it in half before it could make contact with her back. The fourth landed on his feet once more and faced Sakura. Sakura stood facing the fourth Hokage with determination. Naruto lifted his head once more with widened eyes at the rate of which Sakura is fighting against the fourth. Sakura-chan. Sakura turned her head slightly to face Naruto, getting to his knees but stumbling back face first on the water's surface. Naruto. Don't worry. When it comes to fighting for friends. Sakura clenched her fists tightly. I won't lose. She took out 2 kunais, one with a tag, and threw them at the fourth Hokage. Not concerned with this petty attack, the fourth easily caught the first kunai and used it to deflect the second. Sakura smirked at this happening. Yes, she whispered to herself. The fourth Hokage looked on at the kunai he held in his hand and came to the realization of why she was smirking. The clash of the 2 kunais flared a spark that ignited the tag of the kunai in his hand. Boom! She said lowly, then suddenly, the tag exploded on the fourth, making a giant smoke cloud fill the area around him. Sasuke, coming to consciousness, awoke to see the explosion. Sakura? She did that? He thought to himself. Naruto lifted his head some, was surprised that Sakura had done it. Good job. Sakura-chan, he said with one eye open still from being battle-weary. A couple of minutes later, after the smoke cleared, the fourth Hokage stood unharmed with a neutral expression on his face. Not bad. Not bad at all, he said to Sakura. I'll say, you're doing better than Naruto and Sasuke. It seems that you are more powerful when it comes to saving your friends. Sakura stood without word, readying herself for round 2. I knew that wasn't going to be enough to take him down. What now? She thought to herself. The Yondaime started to walk toward Sakura and reached into his pouch. He took out shuriken and threw them at Sakura, then dashed toward her in high speed. Shocked at his movements, she hurried and took out a kunai to deflect the shuriken but was stuck in the arm with 2 of them, making her drop her kunai. She hurried once more and pulled out the 2 shuriken, then looked for the Yondaime, but he was gone from sight. Where did he go? She thought as she looked around for him. Pakun yelled out to her. Sakura, below you. He yelled to signify that he dove underwater when she wasn't looking. Moving quickly, she looked down just in enough time to see a fist thrusting upward from the water towards her chin as Naruto did when he fought Neji in the Chunin exam. Having somewhat of a quick reflex, Sakura leaned back into a backflip, thus dodging the surprise uppercut chin attack by inches. She continued her backflip from her hands on the water back to the final flip to her feet on the water once more. That was too close, she said, then began to remember where she saw someone do that. Naruto. He did the same thing to Neji. She thought, remembering how they were similar in the surprise attack. Suddenly the fourth Hokage disappeared with yellow lightning being left behind. Sakura's face became shocked with fear as she realized he must have a tag on her. She quickly began to try and find it, but it was too late. The fourth was already behind her with a kunai up to her neck. Sakura began to think of how he got a tag on her when she wasn't looking, then realized that he must have thrown one of her back when she backflipped out the way of the chin uppercut. You fought well. But it's over, the Yondaime said to Sakura as he drew the kunai closer to her neck. No, Sakura-chan, exclaimed Naruto, still trying to get to his feet, this time getting to one knee. Gotta help her out, said Sasuke as he reached into his pouch and pulled out a demon wind shuriken slowly. He quickly snapped it open. Sakura, duck, yelled Sasuke, emerging from the rocks, then forcibly threw the giant shuriken at the fourth Hokage. The fourth Hokage, surprised to see Sasuke back to his feet, barely moved away from Sakura in enough distance to catch it in time. He then looked on at Sasuke and threw it back at him with even greater force. Pakun yelled over to Sasuke, "Sasuke, watch out." Sasuke, attempting to dodge out of the way, fell to one knee from his damage from the Rasengan, breathing hard. Knowing he couldn't dodge it, he quickly reached behind himself and grabbed his Kusanagi and sliced through the giant shuriken in 2 pieces. After slicing the shuriken in half, Sasuke fell to his knee tired. That was too close, he thought. The Yondaime looked at Sasuke with a calm expression. He knew he couldn't dodge it in time, so he cut through it. Clever. Then suddenly his thought was interrupted when suddenly Sakura grabbed his arm and smirked. "Never take your eyes off the opponent," she said, then swung him around, then launched him straight into the air. After making the Yondaime go airborne, Sakura flinched from the 2 shuriken cuts on her arm. She quickly formed her hand seal, making green energy emerge from her hand, then placed it on the cuts, healing them. Recovering from being thrown into the air, the Yondaime began to fly back downward toward Sakura while forming a Rasengan in his hand. "Rasengan!" shouted the Yondaime as he fell closer and closer to Sakura. Seeing this, Naruto managed to stand on both feet but then fell back to one knee. "Sakura-chan! Run!" shouted Naruto. Sakura could only look on in fear at the descending Yondaime with a Rasengan in hand coming at her. Suddenly, a moment flashed into her mind. The moment when she promised Tsunade that she would always do her best and not be a hindrance to her friends anymore. After remembering this in an instant, her facial expression changed from fear to determination as she clenched her fist and pulled it to her side. The Yondaime, once in range, thrusted the Rasengan downward at Sakura. Sakura, ready to strike looking upward, thrusted her right fist up at the Yondaime. Suddenly, a giant gust of gale force winds began to cause the waters to go crazy. The result of the clash was blinded to Naruto and Sasuke as they shielded their eyes from the wind. After the winds died down, Sakura flew from the smoke unconscious, going toward the rocky walls in a dangerously fast rate. Just then, before Sakura could hit the rocky walls, Sasuke jumped in the way and caught her into his arms but slid back, making his back hit the rocks hard. Sakura, opening her eyes, looked up to see Sasuke looking down into her eyes. "Sasuke-kun," she said slowly as she began to drift out of consciousness once more. Sasuke, managing a smirk, looked down at Sakura unconscious, then placed her down on the ground lightly. Pakun ran over to her. She'll be okay," said Sasuke to Pakun out of breath. Pakun looked up at Sasuke. "Are you alright? You hit the rocks pretty hard?" Sasuke's eyes began to flicker as he fell to his knees, then onto his face. "I can't move. I used up most of my chakra to make it in time to catch Sakura," said Sasuke tired. The smoke from the clash began to clear, revealing the Yondaime standing with an unharmed look on his face, but something was different. Naruto became surprised at the sight of the Yondaime. Sakura-chan punched a hole through him," he shouted. The Yondaime looked downward and noticed a hole in him where Sakura must have punched through him. "I see. So she was able to dodge out of the way of the Rasengan just in enough distance for her to punch a hole in me. But since she was so close to the Rasengan still, the effects of it still blasted her away," the Yondaime thought. "Well, she did pretty good. But it would seem that all of them are at their limits." The Yondaime looked toward Sasuke and the unconscious Sakura with a hole still in him. "It's been fun. But this is where it ends," said the Yondaime with a smirk. "After I'm done killing you guys off, I can go back to Orochimaru's side and finish the destruction of Konoha, along with its people. I don't think so, yelled a voice. The Yondaime, being surprised to hear this, turned to his side and saw Naruto to his feet. I won't let you destroy Konoha. I'll fight for everyone, said Naruto, tired but determined. Then an image of a beautiful long-haired Hyuga girl flashed into his mind. I can't die here. I won't die here, exclaimed Naruto. Suddenly, winds began to pick up around him, making the Yondaime's hair blow wildly. What is this wind? Where is it coming from all of a sudden? He said to himself. Sasuke managed to look up and at Naruto. This is Naruto? He asked himself like he always did when he saw Naruto do something amazing. Pakun, watching over an unconscious Sakura, turned to see Naruto. Naruto. Sakura, in her unconscious state, slowly muttered the words, Naruto. Naruto stared on into the eyes of the Yondaime with fearless eyes. He crossed his fingers in the shape of a plus sign. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He shouted, making two clones appear next to him. The Yondaime's eyes widened with surprise. Where is he drawing this energy from? Is he using the Kyuubi? The Yondaime thought. Naruto put out his right hand, then the two clones began to motion their hands above it, starting to form the Rasengan first. The other clone, taking it further. He's doing it, the Yondaime thought. So, let's see what you got, exclaimed the Yondaime as he placed his right hand to his side and began to form the Rasengan. Suddenly, in Naruto's hands, the Futon Rasengan began to form. Once formed completely, he dispersed the two clones and held onto the Futon Rasengan ready to strike. The Yondaime and Naruto stared each other down for a moment, then charged each other while yelling. Once in range, the Yondaime thrusted the Rasengan toward Naruto. Naruto thrusted the Futon Rasengan toward the Yondaime's Rasengan and they both clashed, making a power struggle occur. I won't let you win, said Naruto, shouting in rage as the Futon Rasengan began to destroy the Rasengan in the Yondaime's hands. The Yondaime became surprised at this, then was impaled in the chest by Naruto's finished Rasengan. Suddenly, a wind spiral began to circle the Yondaime's body, encasing him in a sphere of high-cutting winds that cut and shredded the Yondaime's body all over. After a moment of being cut up by the wind Rasengan, the blast sent the Yondaime hurling toward the other side of the rocky cavern and crashed him into the rocks hard by gale force winds. As the gale winds raged throughout the valley, it became very hard to breathe. Sasuke began to gasp as he couldn't breathe, then looked down onto Sakura struggling to breathe in her sleep. Seeing this, Sasuke motioned himself over Sakura to block the strong winds from her. Pakun held his breath and shielded his eyes with his paws from the raging winds. Sasuke and Pakun then managed to look on with widened eyes. He did it, they said in unison. Sakura's eyes began to flicker open slowly. After hitting the rocks, the wind Rasengan let off of the Yondaime, leaving his body engraved into the side of the mountain unconscious and battle damaged. Naruto limped over to the rocky side of the valley and faced the Yondaime's unconscious body. He looked closely at him, wondering some things to himself. Suddenly, the Yondaime managed to open his eyes slowly. Naruto. Naruto continued to look on at the Yondaime. Naruto. I am impressed. You were able to use the finished form of the Rasengan in that condition. Naruto fell to one knee from his loss of chakra and began to breathe hard in maintaining his consciousness once again. His eyes flickering open and closed and his head becoming heavy. I am truly happy to see the finished form of the Rasengan. I thank you for that, said the Yondaime as his body began to decay from the cuts and began to blow in the wind. The decaying began from his feet and began to blow away from them to his knees, then to his waist and chest. I am proud of you, my son. Naruto lifted his head thinking he heard him being called, son, and looked at the Yondaime's head and body finally decay and blow into the wind, being put back to death. Naruto, finally giving in, passed out from exhaustion. Did he call me son, or am I just imagining it? Thought Naruto in a daze of subconsciousness, then finally passed out to a slumber. Hakun looked over Naruto passed out on the ground on the other side of the valley's lake and smiled warmly. You did it, Naruto.